All right, we'll call the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. The first order of business is public comment, and we'd ask that people limit the comments to the agenda item, which is selection of a independent investigator. And we'll let people in the room speak first, and then we'll see if anybody online wants to speak. Anything? You don't have to.
I have a question, but I don't think it's related enough to the agenda. It's like a common question, so maybe if no one else has anything.
It's not related to the investigation.
Maybe indirectly. I'm curious about the Park and Rec Commission process. I just don't know where to get information about that.
I mean,
That's not.
Might be in here as part of this.
Oh, you asking going forward? Going forward with the commission,
Yeah,
or
like who's deciding who's on it? When does that decision get made? What are those responsibilities?
I mean, I don't know for sure. I mean, the Board of Selectmen appoints the members, and there was a request or an idea that names be solicited. So that I know it was in the Bethany bulletin that went out a couple of weeks ago. So maybe it'll be brought up at the normal Board of Selectmen meeting in September. That would be the earliest that it would. And it really depends on how many people apply, whether there's a lot of people and then we have to pick between them, or.
I think in a way it is related to what we're doing, because that might be, I don't know if it might be in here as part of the work that the investigator does. Because I think I remember saying something, but I think that one good question I have about that is, is Paula the one that's going to choose who the members are? So it's a good question. I mean, I would say she shouldn't be the one making those decisions.
That's not really a question for the investigator.
Well, whether or not she has authority to do that, but it might be. And as we go along, I remember making a note about that somewhere here.
I got the video.
That's just somebody that might
Okay.
sound. So don't have the full information, but I would guess that at least it would be discussed, if not voted on at the September meeting. We're in public comment. Did you have any public comment on the agenda item?
Is this the end of the public comment? Just because I'm.
Oh,
We're gonna ask people online, but we're doing people in the room first.
No, I know. Just doing some of it.
Okay, nothing over there. Yeah. Anybody online have a comment they'd like to share? I guess, do they have to raise their hand so you can unmute them?
I think they have the ability to unmute themselves.
Okay.
See anyone in the chat.
Does anyone online have a public comment? And they can hear us, right? Okay.
You should just ask the lady for her name and address, just so the minutes are clear.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Okay.
Jillian Nugent, right?
Yes, my name is Jillian Nugent, with a G, and my address is 53 Miller Road, Bethany, Connecticut.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments at this point, or?
Do you guys have everything like set up of what's going to be asked of the investigation?
No, that's what we're going through
Or is
tonight.
that something you're going to do tonight?
Yeah, we're working on putting together stuff that we had to work on our own, because we can't work on stuff except in public meetings.
right. Does that make sense? So because this is a public meeting, Bob and I can't like work on it in between meetings, even
We
though.
have emails, and I guess you have those, the people that were going to contribute ideas to it.
I didn't get that.
I didn't get
Didn't
any.
get that many.
No.
So, I mean, I would say that if people have anything that they think of and they want to, I don't know if we'll be able to finish today. There's a chance that we might. But if people have ideas, sending an email couldn't hurt. It's good to get feedback. from, what people think.
I have a friend that has a lot of ideas, so I'll tell her to send it all over.
Yeah, that would be good.
All right, so I know there were two things, Jen Cafaso had drafted a scope of work, just to get started on stuff. And then I put together some, RFP language for the other stuff that's not the scope of work.
I just want to say before we get started that I had sort of an objection to the way item 3 is worded on the agenda. It's, the way it reads is discussion and possible action, preparation of scope of work and request for proposals for independent investigator for review of Parks and Recreation Department. I just asked for a very minor edit. I asked that request for proposal be deleted because I don't see this as a request for proposal. This isn't, we're not asking for, a contractor to give us a quote on, a project in town. We're not asking for a road to be paved, and I don't want to be bound by the lowest bidder. And I was told that we wouldn't be bound and it has to be a, request for proposal. But then when I asked for the procurement policy, and people could have a copy of this if they want, it does in fact say that if it's a request for proposal, you're required to accept the lowest bidder. So I just wanted to be clear and let people know what was happening with this item. And again, I think that if Paula is recused, she shouldn't be forcing the agenda to be written a certain way. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'll say, there's no hard, unless there's some local definition, or, whatever agency you're working with, there aren't really hard definitions for, requests for qualification, requests for proposals, invitation to bid. Although usually when you say invitation to bid, it's more of a construction contract or a purchase or price is the primary. You still look, they have to be qualified.
Right. We
Usually,
definitely want
and
someone
then
qualified.
I know when there's federal funds involved and we're hiring engineers or architects, we are not allowed to talk about money. They have to do a request for qualifications. And then you select who you want to work with. You haven't talked about money at all, and then you negotiate because they don't want anybody to be affected. And I request for proposal or somewhere in between.
Well,
So if you're hiring an accountant or attorney or something like that, I say request for proposal is, yes, give us your qualifications, but also tell us what you charge, because that's not gonna be may not even be the primary factor, but it might be something we consider. If there's two attorneys, you think they're both good, and one's 200 an hour, and one's 600, you might say, if they're both equally good, I'll go with the 200. So, but anyway, there's definitely language we put into the document later on that, not that we need it in there, but definitely says we don't have to take the low bidder. We can throw them all out. We can accept anyone. We can negotiate, basically whatever is in the best interest of the town.
But I just want to be clear, Paula, I think Leslie sent me the procurement policy saying basically you're bound by this, it's an RFP, and I'm just want to push back on that and say, we do not have to call this an RFP. I don't think it is an RFP. This is a unique situation. I don't think we're bound by this procurement policy. Do you? Do you think we're bound by?
The Board of Selectmen can waive bidding anyway.
Well, no, that's what I'm
Yeah,
asking, because
yeah.
I don't know your position on this, because we're not allowed to meet outside of, the public meeting. But, so can you tell us whether you want to be bound by the procurement policy?
Well, we're not necessarily gonna take the low bidder on it because it's professional service.
So why don't we just say we're not doing this and cross out RFP?
Well, you have to call it something. So you have to put, if you want to call it something else, you could say a request for letter of interest and then add all the other stuff in. I think it's kind of semantic.
We could just, we're drafting something, we're not even sure we're gonna be done today. Why don't we just say preparation of scope of work for independent investigator?
No, but what is the ad, like, if they're gonna advertise it in the paper, what does the ad say?
Are we gonna advertise in the paper?
Well, I thought you wanted to publicly notice it. There was the town attorney, it initially was gonna, he just solicit quotes from certain firms, and we still should notify the firms, but
Yeah,
I thought at a previous meeting, you wanted it to be a publicly advertised.
I think we should do both, just to get
Okay.
the most exposure and.
So when you put the
reach.
legal ad in, you have to call it something. And so that your request for, I mean, request for proposal could just mean literally asking.
I don't wanna call it that, I
asking
really don't,
for-
because it's gonna be misleading. People are gonna think that it's an RFP. If you use that language, I think it's gonna be confusing.
You could say request for letter of interest and then just define letter of interest to include the qualification.
I think
interest.
that's better, yeah,
Okay,
I think that's better.
request
Let's
for
call it
letter
that.
of interest.
Yeah. Although, I do think we should reach out to firms and, I don't think they're gonna be required to submit a letter if we're reaching out to them, you know what I mean? It'd be a different sort of,
No, we want them to submit something.
right, because they have to tell us about what their what their plan would be, their time frame and stuff like that. What they would charge.
Right,
all
so
that
that's, whatever they're sending, we want them to send us information,
Mhm.
resumes, probably hourly rates. But we could change it to request for letter of interest if the word proposal is off-putting.
I just think it's confusing. People are gonna make assumptions about what that means.
Which it should be letters of interest. That's fine. All right, and then, and it's an independent investigation review is the topic. And then in that, template that I was using, which again is for engineers and architects, the first, heading was intent. So do you have the, similar to what I had or different?
I should have redlined it, which
Is there, if
yeah, no,
you've got
this is
one,
for you.
okay.
Yeah, that's for you.
All right.
I think just to make it
Seeking
easy,
a qualified firm for independent investigation
do you
review.
want to read it out loud so people could?
Yeah, all right, so intent. The town of Bethany seeking a qualified firm or person to perform an independent investigation and review of what happened after a report of an alleged sexual abuse of several children by a counselor in the town's after-school. I will try. After a report of an alleged sexual abuse of several children by a counselor in the town's after-school program run by the Parks and Recreation Department was made in 2022.
December.
December of 2022, and that refers back, the report is what that date is referring back to. Also, if appropriate, if any person was made aware of or reported an allegation prior to December 22. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, the way I had written, I realized I needed to add something because I was saying that we want an investigation of the sexual abuse, but that's not really, we don't want to duplicate what the police.
We
have done.
definitely don't.
Yeah.
And I think that if there's any question, we have to be clear that this is not at all about the criminal case in any way. It's really about the town's response. So I think, I think that if it's not clear, do you think it's clear? I mean, I think it's.
Yep. You just have to give them, because I'm assuming whoever's reading, right, whoever's reading it is not familiar with what's going on. They may be from farther away and, all right.
So the
Second
intent
item
is just
is,
like a general
Mhm.
statement about what this is and what the investigation is. Do you think we have to say explicitly, this is not at all related to any crime or investigation of any crime?
no,
Okay,
I don't think so.
I mean, I think the rest of it explains that,
Second item is background. Do you want to, no, did you use what I had sent as the model?
I did, yeah, and then I think there was.
But you
there
made
was
some edits.
Just a little bit, I may have your original here, do you have it?
Yeah,
So it's,
and we don't have to do this, but reading back through it, I was kind of thinking maybe just putting the first sentence or two in and then striking the rest of it is just providing too much information, like if they're doing the investigation, they don't need us to tell them everything.
I kind of like the background section.
Oh, no, yeah, I did the background, but then I like said, certainly the first part, which currently reads, town residents became aware of allegations of sexual abuse from news media reports in late June 2024 as a result of a press release by the Connecticut State Police announcing several arrest warrants served on the defendant, Anthony Mastrangelo, in May and June of 2024. Oh, and then this is a note to ourselves to refer the reader to the arrest warrants, either attaching them or by providing a link to the state police website. And then you've got reportedly the Bethany Community School was notified by the Department of Children and Families in December 2022 that a complaint had been filed about Anthony Mastrangelo, a counselor in Parks and Rec after school program and an intern and substitute teacher at BCS. Reportedly, BCS informed the Parks and Rec Department immediately of this information. Reportedly, the defendant, and it goes on from there. I was like, you know something, I've actually heard different stories from people, and this is kind of what we're asking the investigator to. So instead of us telling him, I was thinking after that first sentence and the link or reference to the arrest warrants and.
Okay, so where it starts reportedly, the, Bethany Community School.
Yeah, so I was thinking reportedly the Bethany Community School and the Park and Rec Department were notified in December 2022 that a complaint had been filed with the Department of Children and Families about Anthony Mastrangelo, a counselor at Park and Recreation after school program and an intern and substitute teacher at BCS, and then striking the rest of it.
Hold on a sec. I just want to read what you're proposing to strike. Reportedly, BCS informed the Park and Rec Department immediately of this information. Reportedly, the defendant was immediately removed from employment at the school and with the after-school program. Wait, reportedly, the defendant was immediately removed from employment at the school and with the after-school program. That sentence doesn't make sense, the school grounds. Anyway, that's not grammatically right. At an unknown time, he was removed from the Park and Rec Department, although he remained employed by the Parks and Rec Department until June 2023. At some later date or dates after December 2022, initial notification by DCF, town and school officials may have received additional information regarding the allegations such that the complaint was about sexual abuse and more than one minor victim was involved, and that DCF had referred the case to the state police for criminal investigation. Reportedly, the defendant sexually abused another child in a private home in May 2024.
I think they need that background. I know I can't speak, but
It's not wrong. I just realized that I was repeating things that I had heard. I mean, I guess the investigator's gonna have to do their own thing and not rely on me telling them what happened because I don't
that's
know.
important to know, they need that background.
So that's why the word reportedly ends up in front of everything,
Yeah,
because I
that's
don't know
fine.
it to be
Reporting is
fact.
fine, but they need to know that.
I mean,
It's not really wrong. I was just saying, I was gonna just stop it,
It's
but
gonna take longer to investigate that. So
I want to say, you said there was a sentence in here that needs some.
oh yeah, where it says kind of in the middle, the school grounds, that sentence just isn't right. grammatically.
Reportedly, defendant was
I used to
removed from
teach English.
employment at the school and with the after-school program, just period. And took the school grounds, anything to this background,
Maybe just delete the school grounds.
yeah,
Yeah,
just put a period after
yeah,
program.
because it's a,
I don't think the arrest warrants are online anymore.
Oh, that's a problem.
I have them, I have
We
them,
might
Okay.
need to-
Then we'll have to attach them.
I have them.
Okay. So it must attach.
So I could scan them and.
They should be an attachment then. So then it'll just say, please see arrest warrants attached.
Yeah,
I mean, it's easier, they don't have to go looking for something then, or
So-
potentially have a dead link.
so just in order to make forward progress, why don't we just put like a question there and then get back to it a little later? Because I want to get through as much of this as we can.
Yeah, so
So,
just, the only
just-
thing we did is we struck school grounds.
Yeah, just school grounds. I think like when I was looking at this, I thought that the background was helpful to someone who may not know
It's
anything
fine,
about
I
it.
was just, when I went through it again, I was kind of like, well, you know, why am I telling them everything
That's
that,
absolutely
that I
necessary.
heard?
And, yeah.
I'll just,
Yeah.
don't mind me.
And then this was totally just put stuff in that residents' concerns include, that was just putting in things that I heard. I don't know whether that should be, I left it in, I don't know whether that should be in there or not.
Wait,
Just
which
as
one?
where I listed a couple of residents' concerns.
I like the residents' concerns and I actually have,
And it's just part of background that kind of frames it kind of into the,
Yeah.
why did the state police investigation take 18 months? Why didn't the school and town notify parents?
now before you go any further, I
yeah.
think that the town concerns, that's the whole point of this,
Yes.
right? So I was looking through some of my notes from town meetings and stuff and that's where these questions came from.
Mhm.
So I wasn't sure, I didn't really have time to plug it in, but maybe we can look at what's here
if
and maybe
if
add
there's
to
so
it.
many, do we want to put those as an attachment saying,
I mean, it could be.
these are not, not like we're assigning you to do this, but these are some questions that we've received that the public has had
Right.
and,
Yeah, and we can just, let people know, and some of it might be a duplicate,
Redundant,
yeah,
yeah.
redundant.
but more is just like background, not like this is your scope of work, only answer that particular questions that somebody had. That somebody sent, but just to give like, these are the things that people are not sure about. So that the first three things were kind of about the town's actions, and then the second
I
three.
hate to go backwards, but for the intent, the first section, I think we have to explicitly say that this is an investigation about the official response.
Investigation of, instead of what happened, the town's response to a report.
Yeah, because if you want to know what happened, that's very different than getting details about who knew what, when, and what the response was. So it's kind of like a different question.
Yeah.
So
So-
I think just instead of saying this
Of
is an
what
investigation or
happened.
review of what happened,
Of
of
the
official
town,
response or.
the town's response.
Okay,
In this case, that it's very broad. It could include the town, including the school, the town's response.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, those I was saying down here, that the first three questions posed were just generally like about the town and school release of information. Did they receive additional information? And then the second three I'd written. I don't
wait,
know if
did
yours
you
is different.
read number 3?
No, I was just classified. We'll go back. Then
Okay.
like the second three I was reading was more about, because other people said, well, how did it happen? Was there something wrong in Park and Rec with their policies, procedures,
Mhm.
practices? So what was in place prior to that? Was that substandard? Were changes made as a result? And then are those changes or are additional changes recommended? So kind of a different side, but the town's response and then the child protection programs, kind of in the two different areas. But we'll go back and read the questions. So
Right, and they don't think, we don't have to keep everything in this order, because I think.
Yep.
You're right, because like 4, 5, 6, 7 are all 8, all related to policies and procedures. That's like 5 questions, right? 5 areas right there of
Mhm.
concern.
it's two busy areas. Yeah, Park and Rec policies and procedures before, after, and then should more changes advisable to,
And I think the timeline is important here, like, we have this, something happened in December. When, the timeline is really important, like when, what actions did the town take and when,
based on what information was available at different times.
right.
So let's read the ones, and these are not meant to be, it says residents' concerns include, so it's not meant to be the exclusive. You wanna read them or you?
I mean,
Yeah.
number 3, did town and school officials receive additional information after December 2022 about the allegations, such as that the complaint was about sexual abuse, that more than one minor victim was involved, and that DCF had referred the case to the state police for criminal investigation? If so, so this is part of the timeline we're getting at. So if so, which officials received additional information and when was it received? If additional information was received, why didn't the school and the town notify parents of this information, even in a vague manner? I added that.
I would take that out.
Why?
That adds like a judgmental,
Well, I
Why didn't
want to
they-
talk about this a
why
little
didn't
bit.
they notify the parents of this information, question mark? Why say a vague manner?
Okay, well,
It just,
we
it
can
kind of
take out
adds
vague manner, but the reason why I really wanted something like this, like the question, why didn't families receive any notification in December from the school or from the town? And I think it's important because, given some public comment at a recent meeting, I think there's a misunderstanding about whether or not a public official is allowed to say certain things. And I think that this report has to get at that, because people are under the impression that that a town or a school is not allowed to make a statement. And so I'd like the investigation to cover that.
Yeah, I just think it's enough without putting
Okay.
any subjective.
So
So
I
the
took out
question
vague manner,
before,
I took
which I
out vague
think
manner.
we read specifically, was about the initial information or the December 22. And then the 3 is all about if additional information became available. And then if it didn't, then they wouldn't go on. But if it is, who received the information, then why didn't they?
Exactly, and this is consistent with what we've heard from town residents, who have said, you know, that even if information wasn't known in December, well, when did the town have more information? So that it's part of the timeline, I think.
And then the 4, 5, and 6 are just the 3 different questions about policies, procedures, protocols, training, and practices related to sexual abuse in the Park and Rec Department. The first, number 4, is about prior to December 2022. 5 is about, I think you changed what I had written.
I may have,
You
yeah,
would-
it's kind of in a
You
rush.
copied it, I think.
Yeah.
But it was, it's supposed to be the,
After,
yeah.
yeah,
After becoming aware of the DCF complaint and any additional information.
I'm gonna change 5 to say after instead of prior, because they're the same. We have
I
duplicate
think,
here.
yeah, so just
Yeah,
strike
so
5,
just-
it's already,
yeah.
it's the same as 4. And then you had added 1, who took training classes and when, what employees? And exactly what training.
I
Okay,
mean,
so
I
that,
think there's like a couple, like 8, and there's only 6 on the original document, and there's 9 on this,
right,
so.
that's like a
so,
follow-up question to the Park and Rec Department.
right, we can move it up to 2 or 3 if you want.
Or maybe we'll put it after and then just say for all time periods. Who in the Park and Rec Department took training classes, right?
Yeah,
It's like for all relevant time periods.
so, employees of Park and Rec, did they take training classes? If so, when? Which employees, whether they're, full-time or per diem, seasonal, part-time or full-time, and exactly what training did they take? So that's number 6, and so then 7 goes back to policies, procedures.
Yep, so that, then 7 is the same question about,
As 5, it's,
no, but then the timeline is after they became aware of the
okay.
complaint. So in reaction to
Mhm.
either the initial complaint or any additional information. And then you added some follow-up questions about exactly when did Park and Rec Department make those changes, if any? At whose suggestion were they made? Who implemented those changes?
It should say if anyone who implemented the changes.
are any additional changes to policies and procedures related to sexual abuse recommended? So that's forward-looking, all, and whatever changes have been made, are there still some that are recommended? And obviously, we don't know the expertise of the investigator in child protection. It could vary, but at least in their opinion, looking at things, is there anything that the new Park and Rec Commission and new director should be considering and implementing? So
Mhm.
that was 8.
And then 9, what was the role of the Park and Rec Commission prior to December 2022? Was the Park and Rec Department notified about the allegation made against Anthony Mastrangelo? When did the Park and Recreation meet?
Commission, I think, right?
Commission, yeah. When did they meet? Who were the members? What was their tenure? What was the mission, role? Do they have the ability to hire and fire? Did they meet with the first select woman? Did they meet with the director of Park and Rec?
So that one's aimed at determining, was the commission providing an oversight role, and yeah. And then not a numbered question or anything, just returning to the end of the background. An independent, outside, unbiased investigation is desired because the first select woman is related by marriage to the director and assistant director of the Park and Rec Department, and has acknowledged the defendant's family is friends with her family, resulting in an actual or perceived conflict of interest. The director and assistant director and the defendant counsel were not hired by the current first select woman. They held these positions prior to her being elected to that office. The first select woman has recused herself from the independent investigation. Again, written because the reader may not be familiar with Bethany or what's going on here, and they might be like, what's going on? Am I going to be hired by this first select? And then this just explains that why the first selectman was not involved in this process.
Yeah, and I think there's some stuff for us to clarify in terms of feedback that, because I think there's a section or two where we just said the Board of Selectmen, and so we have to clarify that it's you and me.
But we're the board. I mean, we're not a different board, so we're the
Well,
Board of
she's the board too,
Selectmen.
though. I think that, it kind of
Yeah,
includes
I
her when
think
you say that.
it's the
So-
board, and she's not participating in this. She recused herself from this
Right,
matter. So then scope of work, I just said the following describes in general the anticipated scope of work not meant to limit the investigation and review as it may develop. And then that's where I was thinking of putting the,
yes. So it's our draft currently says insert scope of work language here.
because it was a separate document that, now is this totally separate from what Jen prepared, or?
No, I think
it's,
it's includes my,
Okay,
my stuff.
so can
So
I look at?
we can
I
work
can look
off
at
of that.
yours? Okay.
Yeah, we can work.
So I know on hers, I looked at it very quickly and it seemed like a general, I don't know whether she got it from the internet or whatever, but it definitely seemed like a general approach to a scope of work, like an employment investigation. I will say with the first one, so under scope of work, we have an objective to conduct a comprehensive, unbiased, and confidential investigation of the handling of the notification of an investigation of employee Anthony Mastrangelo, and to uncover the facts, success, any breaches of policy and regulations, provide actionable recommendations. Again, this is like the general scope, but I think if nothing else, we need to take out the word confidential, because while that would normally be something that management would want, they just want to, they're not going to publicize their employees' things in a private scenario. They want to know what to do about their employee or their manager or something like that. In this case, it's not going to be confidential because
Right.
they're, so just strike.
Strike it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other edits on that section? And again, this
I
is,
think-
again, we're just
Yeah.
saying, hey, we're trying to give you a general idea what we're looking for, but in no way is this the whole, right, limited to that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, when I think about this, I've actually been trying to think of ways to make this more easier, more simple, right? Like, we don't want we just want answers to the basic thing, what's the timeline? But I think, I don't like the passive voice here, so it's to conduct a comprehensive, unbiased investigation
Yeah,
of the handling, like, who, right, like, what does that mean? Who handled it? Of the town's, response? Because investigation of the
Just, do
handling
you
is,
want to strike the section? Because we already have background and intent.
no,
for the whole
I
thing.
kind of like this. I
Okay.
kind of like to insert that here under,
Mhm.
but,
I'll leave it for now, unless you have specific edits.
I think we could take out actionable. I mean, that's subjective. What does that even,
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
what
again,
is it?
that's the generic.
right,
Um,
right. So,
Yeah, we actually not specifically asking for, tell us what to do, right? 'Cause
Right.
It's really like, should you fire this employee or, that's not necessarily, we're looking for those recommendations, just the facts that the town can then decide what to do with.
do you agree that we should say, instead of the passive voice, we should say the investigation of the town's handling of the notification of the investigation?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
I think with all the other information, it should be okay.
So,
Next section is entitled Scope of Work. Preparation, review initial reports and documents related to the incident, develop an investigation plan outlining key steps, timelines, and resources needed, obtain authorization and brief from relevant authorities, data collection.
now I think we have to, it says the incident and that's in the singular. And so we have to change that because there's,
Yeah, did you change her thing though? I
I
don't
don't-
know why it just says data collection. No, that's what she has. Oh, no, data collection is a heading for,
okay, for the next, so I just need
So
a
sc-
space here.
so
Yeah, right here.
actually, scope of work is a little tough. Scope of work is applying to all this stuff under here, right?
Right.
So preparation is one thing, data collection, interviews.
Yeah, so really,
Interviews should be
yeah.
the same as,
So scope of work is in bold and the rest of these headings shouldn't be, just to make it clear that this goes under scope of work. I think it'd be easier to read if it said that. What do you think?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, somehow it looks like interviews is another thing after.
Yeah. yeah. So this should be its own thing or indented or whatever.
So preparation is like a subheading, and then
Mhm.
that's the initial reports, investigation plan, authorization and brief. And then data collection under the heading data collection. That's preparation, then data collection, interviews is under the heading, so that
Under, yeah,
shouldn't be bolded.
right.
And then I see she had some separate lines, but you put them all together, the ones related to interviews.
Yeah, it's probably easier to read the way she did it.
Either way is all right.
I can't remember if I added anything.
Identify and interview all relevant parties, including witnesses, complainants, and subjects of the investigation. Well, I mean, the defendant's not gonna, I'm not gonna talk to them. Prepare interview questions in advance and ensure the interviews are conducted in a fair and unbiased manner. Record interviews with consent and take detailed notes. Collect and review all relevant documents, emails, communications, and records related to the incident. Secure any physical or electronic evidence pertinent to the investigation. Examine any physical evidence relative to the incident, including locations, objects, and other tangible items. Analyze digital evidence such as electronic communications, logs, and recordings. This is just like generic investigation. I mean, it's fine, but
I mean,
and some of the stuff maybe if there's no physical evidence and it's just not relevant, but at this point, it's fine. It's
it might
just,
be a little overkill here, right? I mean,
so yeah, somebody's writing a scope of work for any kind of investigation, right?
right. But I mean, I think we have three locations here where incident is singular, and I think we have to use the plural. Unless you want to change it to. If you want to change instead of saying incident, if you want to say the town's response.
Where's that one? Records related to the incident.
Yeah, it's all singular, but that, I think that's confusing. Like, what incident? Is there one incident that? I guess the town's response could be it, but
I think they'll understand this is a generic, description and only the applicable
I don't
portion.
think it should be generic.
right, that's what we're trying
I
to
think it
do.
needs to be incidents, or, I mean, there wasn't one kid.
But see, that's why it's confusing, because if this says incident, like there's one thing that happened and there's been multiple, allegations of abuse, and so I think it'd be probably more clear if we changed it to records related to the town response, stuff like that, instead of, because this is not an investigation of any crime.
Yeah, or we could just strike related to the incident and just say collect and review all relevant documents, emails, communications and records, period. Because
Yes, yeah,
it just has to be
yes,
relevant.
yes,
It's
I think
almost-
that's fine, that's good.
Like it's
better.
kind of duplicating it to
Yeah.
say
Do you
relevant.
refer to the response as for the duration, as the initial response and then the ongoing response, like current, present day?
Yeah, the scope that's written here is just very generic, so it's hard to suddenly put specific.
That's a good question, because that's sort of what I was thinking when I was reading this. What incident is this directing us to? It's
Right.
confusing. And so I
So-
think the way, if we just took out, collect and review all related documents, period, that's okay, I think.
Mhm.
Because at least the confusion factor is not there.
No,
But we
no,
still have two other places where it says,
So where we're starting with the word collect, that really should be under a different heading than interviews. The 3 sentences before talk
Yeah.
about interviews. And then there should be another heading.
right,
Documents or something like that, documents and other evidence.
yeah. Yeah. So these other two places where it says the incident, I think we should change that. Under scope of work, review initial reports and documents related to the incident. You want to just take it out again?
Relevant, or just do the same thing. Cross out related and put initial relevant reports and documents.
It's kind of understood, I think, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Initial reports and documents. Yeah, I mean, this, you have to stop assuming everyone's an idiot when they're reading it.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. All right,
Um,
and then there's an analysis, cross-check interview responses with documentary and physical evidence to identify consistencies and discrepancies, assess the credibility and reliability of information collected, determine whether any policies, procedures, or regulations were violated, evaluate the context and circumstances surrounding the incident. So we gotta change incident. right?
yeah, we do.
Just put a period after circumstances.
I think we should say evaluate the context and circumstances surrounding the town's response. Oh, I had real questions, concerns about the next section. This is the one I was going back and forth. I don't know if you want to skip it or just go in order since we're here.
Reporting.
Yeah. I was just thinking about how some of this stuff works at my work.
Preliminary, in the Jen's draft, you have preliminary report, prepare a preliminary report summarizing initial findings, any immediate concerns, report the preliminary report, final report, draft the detailed report, executive summary, background, methodology, findings and conclusions, recommendations for corrective actions or policy changes, review and revise the final report based on feedback, ensure the final report is clear, concise, supported by evidence.
So,
I don't think that's necessarily wrong.
so the reason I was going back and forth with this is that if the town has concerns, the whole reason for this is that people want answers. So now we're in writing, telling an investigator that we want to know how they're doing with their report, and we're asking for a copy. And I think that that could appear that we're trying to influence what the report is saying. And I'm really concerned about that. So,
Just don't call it a preliminary, they submit a draft.
no, if they submit a draft, we're still sort of saying, or it can appear that we're saying that we want to influence what's in the report, because what do you do with a draft? Do you comment on it?
Right.
And that's probably not appropriate for us to do. What we want is, if we really want an independent investigation, we shouldn't meddle with how they're doing, or I mean, I think having check-in meetings where we say, hey, because we don't want this to take a year, right? So the timeframes have to be discussed, but I don't want that in writing or in reality, or it to appear that I want to influence what the draft and what the final report is going to say, because I don't. And I think that if we keep that in there, it will appear that we are trying to influence what the report says or doesn't say. And so I think we shouldn't ask the investigator, whoever it may be, to check in with us in that way, and that we probably shouldn't ask to look at a draft of their report that they're working on and building. Unless you can think of a reason why that would be.
Well, then you're gonna get a report, and then that will be that, and if you're like, I don't like, you should have done, it's too late.
Well, that's why we have to take this part very seriously, right? We have to,
Well, yeah, so I mean, you've got a list of questions here, what if they don't answer those questions? And you wanted them answered, it's too late, because you already said, whatever we get, and we're not gonna look at it.
right, well, I think we have to,
So I
I
think a
think-
draft, the way this is written, preliminary, looks like they're looking for, if they say where they were investigating an employee for alleged sexual harassment, it comes back, oh my God, there's 50 people complaining about them. You don't want to maybe wait till the final report, suspend this person or something. We don't really have that situation here. So maybe we don't call it preliminary report, but I think we're gonna want to see a draft.
I don't know.
Because if,
Just those meetings are enough to make sure that, are these questions being addressed, like an update?
maybe. I mean, in any other context, you would normally get a draft for comment.
Yeah, this is a unique situation, and I think we have to, this part has to be well done, and I think we have to put a lot of thought into this to make sure it's thorough, and then the decision on who is going to be given the job to do this work.
Alright,
Has
Why
to
don't we
be-
do it, we just leave it this way, strike the preliminary report,
Okay,
okay?
okay,
Now, the language that Jen had here is, all the different sections, right? And then, so they're saying, it's confusing because they shouldn't indent it, but, so under final report, draft a detailed final report, including executive summary, background of the notification. That's too specific.
Yeah.
Just background. These are like headings for the report.
right. I'm hoping that we're going to hire someone who has experience doing this, and they don't need.
Right, but you said
that-
background of the notification, the BCS superintendent in December 2022, that's too
Wait,
specific.
where did I say?
Under
Oh,
there, it's
okay,
too just say background. Methodology of the investigation, findings, conclusions, recommendations for corrective actions or policy changes. Those are the headings that were
Right.
general topics. And then the next line is not a heading, review and revise final report based on feedback. So they're gonna give us the draft final report, and either we say good as is, or
I don't know, I don't think we can do that,
why?
because it's not our report. I mean, I think this is you know, the town, I think, I mean, this is my understanding, the town has concerns, and I don't think they want you and I to edit the
town, the report needs to
investigation.
be made public as soon as it's released.
Oh, yeah, that was voted on, I think, as well. So I
Yeah,
don't
so
think,
leave it the way it is.
thank you, I forgot about that.
Yeah, leave it the way it is.
Excuse me, I have a question. Is the public comment like ongoing throughout this meeting?
No,
Because I'm
it's
hearing,
not.
okay, so
Yeah,
why are
please-
we
please
allowing?
don't comment. I know you have difficulty, and please don't comment either. Yeah, the individual in the room has been asked not to comment anymore. Yeah, I think leave it the way it is. Are you worried about, we're gonna do something to them?
Wait a minute, I'm not sure why you struck this.
Background of the notification of the BCS superintendent in December 2022. It's under the general headings of the report. It's background, it's to executive summary, background, methodology. So don't strike back the word background, just strike the
Right,
specific
but
stuff.
where is that? Where is, it's here, you're saying it's in here?
What?
This,
No, under final report.
okay,
So you're saying that the final report should include, this is difficult, because then this is the list, executive summary,
Mhm.
background, and I'm saying the words after background are too specific for a heading, right?
yeah, I think I put this in as a reminder that I wanted to ask you about what your thoughts were in terms of, I mean, it's in here already, I think, of, you know, getting information in this investigation about what the school knew and what they did.
Yeah, that was included in some of those general questions. It was Park and Rec and the school, back under background,
Okay. All
which
right,
is
well,
the list of things. But I think the last thing, which should be somehow separated from that list of headings.
yeah,
Review and revise the final report based on feedback. So if they have not followed the scope, that would be where we would tell them.
so, but here's the
To do that.
problem. That I just was reminded, there was a public meeting where someone made a motion and it passed, and the motion was stated that the board does not have an opportunity to look at the report or comment on the report or request edits to the report. So I think we'd be in violation of that. And I don't know if you want to tickle it or mark it and review it, but
Well, I mean, if it's not an approved report, then it's a nothing. Yeah,
no, the whole point is, there was a public meeting, there was a motion that
I
was
know, I was there.
approved, and the motion was that we don't
release
have.
the
release-
final
Right,
report.
so we don't have an opportunity to comment or amend or ask for a revision or reject the draft even. That was my understanding of that, but I mean, we can go back and look at that.
Yeah, I would leave it the way it is. I think you're gonna wanna see some kind of draft. Otherwise, if people are not happy with it, there'll be nothing we can do.
Who's the people?
Please stop.
Who's the people?
I'm not gonna respond to you. All right, recommendations, provide actionable recommendations based on the findings. Do we wanna not say actionable? Just say recommendations?
Yes, definitely.
Um, Suggest corrective action, discipline measures, or policy
Well,
changes.
no. Wait a minute. I think we have to strike this line at the top of the page.
It's, you don't need to say it should be clear, concise, and supported by evidence.
Well, I
Only
mean,
hurts.
The line is related to the final report, and it says, ensure that the final report is clear, concise, and supported by evidence. So this is us inserting ourselves, saying, we're gonna make a judgment, and we're gonna decide whether this report is valid or not.
No, this is the scope of work for the contractor. We could take it out, and hopefully they would.
I think we should take it out,
Okay.
because I don't think it's too subjective.
Hopefully that's what they're going to be doing anyway.
Yeah,
Recommendations, provide recommendations based on the findings. And suggest corrective actions, disciplinary measures, or policy changes as appropriate. Recommend preventive measures to avoid similar incidents in the future.
I don't like,
They're kind of generic.
yeah, I don't like the phrase similar incidents. I think,
recommend preventive measures if the future's implied.
right? What do you think about something like recommendations to our guidelines for future communications with town residents? I'm just trying to think, let me just tell you in plain language what I'm thinking about. I think that if we had, let's say, hopefully not, I mean, really, everybody's traumatized, but in 6 months or a year or 5 years from now, we have a similar situation, we're in a similar situation where either at the school or in the town hall building or a town employee is accused of something serious, there's investigation. What does the town leadership do with that information? And I think that it would be helpful to have some guidance on what a proper reaction is, and whether or not how communication should be made to town residents if those things happen. And I think that is really important. And so I think
Do
I
you think
really
it
want to
needs to
focus on
be
how to word this.
Specific in there
Um,
versus, I mean, you know, obviously the generic stuff, policy changes and preventive measures, it would be included, but you want to be more specific.
I think at least for the
So
one
add-
thing
So
that's the
add a,
focus of
add a
this.
line at the end that's more specific about communication, recommendations for improvements in communication protocols.
Guidance regarding
Appropriate response.
These are the communication protocols.
regarding proper communication protocols, guidelines, guidance regarding proper communication protocols. I'm trying to think of language like when this happens, like you know, I want to say, like, specifically, if there's an investigation, for example, guidance regarding proper communication protocols
But you don't want to say.
in
similar-
response to
Similar circumstances.
yeah, I mean, something like that. Guidance regarding proper communication protocols in response to,
Similar issues. You don't want to use the word incidents.
I don't want to use this, and similar issues, I think it'd be better to be more specific, like in response to notifications, how about town notifications of a pending investigation? I don't know if this is worded well, because that might, but I think this is really important to have some feedback on that. There's been a lot of confusion in town with, you know, Paula saying that she was legally prohibited from saying anything at all in December. And I think that this is important guidance for us to have some clarity on that.
We need a verb, so provide guidance
Yeah,
or recommend guidance regarding proper communication protocols for town notification of pending investigations.
yeah, something like that is good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it, I mean, this is just, these things are to get out there and advertise and try to get some responses. Hopefully we'll get, obviously, when we're reviewing them, depending on what we're looking for, we'll have to kind of go back and look at what their scope of work is, because that
Mhm.
may impact who we would want to hire.
right,
In other words, if someone is a very good private investigator, detective, they may not be the right ones to provide legal guidance to the town on, how
Right.
park and rec departments should be run,
right.
but very good at interviewing people and
Right.
requesting documents.
Yeah, and that's why, that's the difficulty in this, is that we're writing it for a general
Mhm.
audience and not to a specific, investigator. Is it gonna be investigator? Is it gonna be a law firm? Is it gonna be, somewhere in between? Hopefully someone who's done, a serious investigation before, but, yeah, so I
I
think,
think that would be mandatory. They've
right,
never
right,
done
no, I agree,
investigation. Yeah.
But, so I think that you raise an interesting point, which means that we might have to show some flexibility in terms of when we start talking to people and how, I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
like, because not every single sentence here that we're talking about tonight is gonna apply to every single person who might be interested in taking this on,
Mhm.
so. Should we go to follow-up?
Read,
Follow-up, establish a follow-up plan to ensure recommendations are implemented. Monitor the effectiveness of corrective actions and make adjustments as needed. Conduct follow-up interviews or reviews if necessary to verify compliance with recommendations. So this is in here, but I was wanting to ask you, like, do you think this is the role of an investigator, or is this something for the town to follow up on? Like, once,
Yeah, it should
once we
come
get a
Once
report,
you get the report, their scope of work is done. Will they establish a follow-up plan? Maybe, but they're not gonna monitor the effectiveness. I mean, that goes beyond. what
I
we're
think
looking
that's
for.
more for the town to do that.
Just strike the section. They're not responsible for follow-up. Once the
I think
report is
I'd
issued.
strike the whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Communication. That one,
Maintain regular communication with the board throughout the investigation. Ensure confidentiality and handle all information sensitively. Provide updates on the investigation's progress and any significant developments. So we have a lot of work to do here, right?
yeah, so this is the part where they should be making some kind of progress reports, not just working for 2 months, 3 months and dumping a report on us and then we realize they veered off what we wanted.
Well, we have to take out the board because the board includes Paula and we can't leave it like that.
No, it's fine.
No, it's not. It's
But
not.
we're not a different entity. We're the Board of Selectmen.
Well, we could say Selectmen 2 and Selectmen 3. I mean, I could get into an accident tomorrow and I'll be replaced, so
I
it
would
could
just
be,
leave it as the board.
I don't feel comfortable with that because it implies that Paul is involved.
But we've already said earlier on that she's.
Right, but all
recused and why
sections
she's
of the
recused.
document should be consistent with each other. And, I'm not really sure why do you wanna,
Well, as I was saying, we're not a different committee or something like that. We're the Board of Selectmen. And Paul is not here because there's nothing on
all
the
right,
agenda.
so what
for
if we say, maintain regular communication
Well,
with,
later on, it means the fact that they're not communicating with us individually. It's probably gonna have to be through, say, Jane Cafasso or.
no,
town
I
staff.
thought about that, we can't do that either. Maintain regular communication with the board, except for the person who's recused. I cannot, like, inconsistencies are gonna not, they're
We
just
could
not.
put
okay.
after that sentence, just again, provide the same information again. No, the first select woman has recused herself from this investigation.
That's fine. I mean, the confidentiality thing is appropriate. I mean, certainly the investigator shouldn't be, talking to everybody about.
Yeah, I think later we'll make it clear that it's public, but they don't have to tell everybody everything that somebody else.
Right.
Yeah,
So I don't have a problem with that. The last sentence with under communication, I think, I don't know.
provide updates on the progress and any significant developments. Strike significant
Um,
developments, just
Do
updates.
you have, this reminded me of, like timeline, like how much time do you think an investigation like this requires? Because I think, if we talk to people and they say, oh, I need a year and a half, I think we could say, wait, and it's too
Well,
late.
after we finish scope of work, when we get back to the generic proposal or whatever stuff.
Right.
I had put in asking them for schedule, but then I wasn't sure, maybe we shouldn't ask if, if they're really just not familiar with it. But I guess we could say, what schedule do you anticipate?
Mhm.
Like if they're coming in to it saying, oh, this will be a 2-year thing, that firm may not be thinking of the same thing that we are.
Right,
But whatever they tell, if somebody tells us 4 weeks, that doesn't mean it's gonna be 4 weeks.
right,
Um,
right.
So maybe we just ask them in general, at this point, based on what what do you anticipate the schedule to be
Mhm.
or length?
Right, or given your case, your workload,
Well,
when,
that's the other
Yeah.
thing, yeah, right.
Mm.
If they're like, I'm real busy for the next year, then I'd be
Right,
happy
right.
to work on it.
yeah.
Not gonna help us.
um,
All right,
I don't-
so
I
we
don't-
added
I-
the thing about the first select woman and recusing. You want to change the last sentence?
I just, I don't know. I don't know if I want to strike the whole thing or just,
Provide updates on the investigation period.
it gives me the sense that we're asking to meddle in the investigation in a way. I mean, um, provide updates.
Well, I guess, I mean, like, especially like if they're submitting bills that we have to approve, you have to know what they did. Like, I don't think they have to say, so-and-so said this, and so-and-so said this, and I found this email. I mean, they could just say, I've interviewed, 6 people, but I've identified 12 that I want to.
How about just stop after progress, updates
Yeah.
on the investigation's progress?
Yeah. Again, this is super generic, so it's a little bit over-inclusive. Confidentiality and legal compliance. Ensure all investigation activities comply with legal and regulatory requirements. Well, I don't know how you can not do that, but it doesn't hurt to put it in, but they have, like, just says, follow the law. Maintain strict confidentiality, protect privacy of individuals involved. I mean, I guess that's okay during the investigation, but document and store all evidence and investigation records securely. Do you want to just add a clarification at the end that or maybe we'll go down under final report where a couple sections ahead said present to relevant stakeholders, and then that we should probably change and make it clear that the report's going to be released to the public and available to the public.
Yeah,
If that's the case, the confidentiality stuff is just during the investigation. Do
right.
you have any other edits on that section?
I don't.
All right, next section is entitled Documentation and Record Keeping. Keep detailed record of all investigation activities, including interview notes, evidence collected, and communications. Seems okay, right?
Yeah.
Ensure proper documentation of investigation process and findings, store investigation records securely in accordance with organizational policies. Just maybe store them securely. I don't know what the organizational policies are, so
Yeah, just securely. I think it's,
doesn't really add anything else.
no, it doesn't.
Again, if we were such and such corporation, maybe we would have organizational policies
Right.
for deliverables, preliminary report. So we're striking that, right?
Yes, please.
So it's just final report, comprehensive report detailing investigation process, findings, conclusions, and recommendations presented to relevant stakeholders. Just strike that part and then just let's put information in here about the final report will be public or something like that.
I mean, I think, you know, I think the idea of this first sentence is just to give some information about what we are hoping to see in the report. I mean, it's already in another section, so I don't think it's crucial, but
Mhm.
you know,
To present to the relevant stakeholders is like too generic.
yes,
And
yeah.
somehow I want to like make it clear that the final report will be released to the public
Let's just say that instead of this, because this is,
instead of relevant stakeholders.
yeah.
Action plan. I don't know, I think that's already been included in, the recommendations are already included in the final report, right? There's not a separate thing.
No, we could strike it. This
Sign
is,
off.
just so we're clear though, it's, this section says action plan recommendations for corrective actions and policy changes. Follow-up plan to ensure implementation and compliance. So these are things we've already dealt with and deleted.
Well, approval and sign off. I don't think I'd just strike that whole section. We've already-
Let's read it. That's my sense, and that's why I highlighted
Yeah.
the word preliminary report.
Go
You want to
ahead.
read?
No.
Review and approval of the investigation plan, which we're not gonna do. Preliminary report and final report by relevant authorities. So that's definitely, that whole thing we have to strike, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking the whole section,
Okay.
but yeah,
Formal sign off to ensure all parties understand and agree to the investigation scope, objectives, and findings. The scope of work ensures a thorough, impartial, and systematic investigation of reports of the incident on December 2022, and all actions taken thereafter, including but not limited to who knew, what he, she, they knew, when he, she, they knew, and what was done after the initial report, by whom and when. Providing clarity on the facts and guiding the organization towards appropriate actions and improvements.
but this is under a heading approval and sign off.
Yeah,
So I don't think any of that stuff belongs under that. The first two things were like don't proceed until you get approval, but I think we've already got the scope of work and,
you know, this scope
once
of
they're
work here,
hired-
though, this section here, I think is better than what we have. Just this section here. So,
move it to another part of the scope.
yeah, and
To strike the second sentence as well. So
Yeah.
we're not gonna have a
Yeah,
section
no.
approval and sign off.
no, right,
Again, that's in the generic thing. But so you've got a sentence, this scope of work ensures a thorough, impartial, and systematic investigation of reports of, and I know you don't like the word incident, so you might want to change it.
yeah. Yeah, of the incident, we changed to,
Anyway, incident in 20 December, incident
Yeah.
or incidents, and all actions taken thereafter. Reports of sexual abuse, reports of sexual abuse in December 22, instead of incident. And
Uh,
all actions taken thereafter, including.
well, not, what did you want to say?
Replace reports of the incident in December 22 with reports of sexual abuse in December 2022.
Well, no, because that's confusing and sounds like we're investigating the sexual assault.
Right.
So we have to be, that's why this is really confusing, and the word incident is problematic.
But do we need this, or do we kind of already?
I
have
think
this
we
stuff.
should change it to the scope of work ensures a thorough, impartial, and systematic investigation of the town's response. Starting on or about December 2022. Or the town's response.
Maybe just the scope of work should ensure the scope of work, this scope of work, the scope of work should ensure a thorough, impartial, and systematic investigation, period. And we'll move it back to the
Yeah.
other
that-
parts,
that- I think that's.
and then we don't have to
nice,
like
yeah.
repeat all the stuff about December
Yeah,
22.
Let's do that, because I think we already have this covered earlier, so I'm gonna
So
delete,
it's the scope of work.
although I do like this after actions taken, all that part, that end of the sentence there, I think that's good.
All right, then we have to, the scope of work should ensure thorough, impartial of the reports of the incidents. So the reports received in December 22 and all actions taken thereafter.
No, we have to say the town's response, I think, because reports received is too confusing. I don't even know what that means.
All right, so systematic investigation of the town's response.
Oh, I thought you wanted to get rid of, I thought you wanted to delete this.
I was, but then you wanted the rest of the sentence, so
But
we have to leave it in, don't we?
We could just make it 2 sentences.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
'cause
then we'll
I-
go back to
We don't
this.
need to repeat.
The
yeah.
scope of work should ensure a thorough, impartial, and systematic investigation,
Mhm.
period.
Or we could say systematic investigation, including all actions taken, all actions including but not limited to, and just tie in the end of that sentence.
Okay, systematic investigation, including but not limited to.
Yeah, yeah. So now that's really neat, because you just delete that middle part and,
Including but not limited to all actions taken. Oh, no, we already have an including. But just, do you want to just then, including but not limited to who knew, what they knew?
yes, yeah, that way we don't have to,
Initial report, okay, so up to there. And we're taking out the reports of the incident.
yes, and all the way to thereafter.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
think
now
that's
it's,
the easiest way to do it.
All right, the final sentence reads, now, the scope of work should ensure a thorough, impartial, and systematic investigation, including but not limited to who knew, what he, she, they knew, when he, she, they knew, what was done after the initial report, and by whom and when.
Yeah,
And then the next sentence, I don't know if that follows, providing clarity and facts and guiding, no, just straight that last sentence.
yeah.
It's just very generic.
Yeah.
All right, now this sentence that we just came up with should be
Under,
moved
up, all the way to,
back to scope of work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like the general part in the beginning, where we're talking about scope of work on page 1.
yeah,
Maybe just right under the heading scope of work,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Before you get into the detail.
yeah.
That would be
And
like
and then the details
introduction.
follow. I think that-
Add from last page.
Yeah, that's what I add from the last page.
Last page, add to page. All right, so we made a pass through the scope of work.
So we go back to this
Then we
now.
go back to the. Yeah, so then we're up to submission and deadline.
Yeah, at the bottom of page,
Proposals, we're gonna change that to letters of interest. Everywhere it occurs. Letters of interest will be received by the town of Bethany Board of Selectmen until 4 p.m. This is gonna have to change, but that was a date I picked at the time.
right, Yeah.
Until, and we'll have to set a date.
yeah,
4 paper copies of the proposals. Again, that will be changed to. Actually, the first place we do letter of interest, let's put in parentheses LOI and then just use LOI after
Yeah.
that. 4 paper copies and or a PDF copy.
yeah,
I don't care. Do we just want a PDF copy or leave it the way it is? I mean, the town staff can scan it if we receive paper copies.
yeah.
All
I mean,
proposals should be signed,
I could
proposals
see-
should be submitted to.
I think we have to change this, and look, this is nothing against Jen Cafasso, I think she's done amazing work with, all the stuff that, people said at the Board of Finance meeting yesterday that everything goes through her desk, and so it's impressive, but I think that it would be inappropriate to have her handle really any part of this, because she's Paul's assistant. And so I think it would be,
Just, so that's
yeah.
delivery, so strike her name and title, and just say Town of Bethany Board of Selectmen.
well, why don't, I mean, I put a note in here, like right underneath, just because I was thinking of ideas on what to do.
So obviously that the mailing address is there. Is there an email address that they can be sent to?
I think that it should be our emails,
Okay,
yeah. I really don't see any other way. And I think if something comes in on paper, the town staff should be instructed that they shouldn't open the mail unless we're there, or however you want to do it. That's what I would,
That's making it very complicated because we don't work at the town hall. So that's gonna be,
yeah, but we live, 3 minutes away. I don't know, I was just trying to address,
all right, well, you don't want her to collect them, so strike her name and title,
Yes. Yeah.
okay? And then,
I want to be clear, I'm not saying that she's not capable, I think she's capable, I'm trying to avoid any appearance of
well, let's
Any
go,
kind of
let's go back.
conflict.
Right now, we're allowing people to either submit it by mail or by email. Do you want to leave both choices, or do you want to eliminate a choice?
I mean, I'm happy to leave both choices.
Okay, so they can either mail it to the Town of Bethany Board of Selectmen at 40 Peck Road, Bethany, Connecticut, 06524, or they can email it to, we'll provide both selectmen 2 at bethanyct.com and selectmen 3.
Sure, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and do you want to have them? So we're going to do
I
selectmen.
think it would be helpful if we could add our emails to the town website. Do you know how we could, how does that work, do you know?
I don't know. I was thinking the same thing. We have
Yeah.
these emails, but
Right,
unless somebody knows it, it's like,
Right,
it's like a
right.
secret.
right.
Selectmen 2 and do you want anyone who works at town hall to also receive the things, or just the 2 of us? So
Can you
paper,
repeat that?
so we're given the mailing address, and then we're gonna, instead, we're striking Jen Cafasso, the email address, and putting selectmen2 at bethanyct.com and selectmen3 at bethanyct.com.
Okay, so what's gonna happen if someone sends something and it says Board of Selectmen? No one's gonna know what it is and it'll be opened. I have concerns about that.
Then
Proposals can be hand delivered and then opened at Board of Selectmen.
yeah, but
Right, but if there's mail that
yeah,
says
so it
to
has
Board
to
of
be,
Selectmen,
it has
how would
to,
anyone know
it has
what
to
it
be,
is? How would anyone know what it
it has
was?
to be in this, then we'll have to put under that mailed LOIs. Mailed LOIs must be in a sealed envelope, clearly labeled letter of interest. And then what's it called? Investigate, independent letter of interest, independent investigation and review.
Yeah.
Can I provide some context on how we get the mail?
Yeah.
Usually, like if it just says Town of Bethany, a lot of times it could be a check for the tax collector, it could be for anyone, so sometimes in the town clerk's office, we do have to open it to see what it is. In general, anything that are like bills, anything that's for the selectman's office, or things that are just in general for the town, if we open it, it's not clearly for us or for the tax collector, we're going to file that we give to Jen. So if they are able to very clearly write on the outside of the envelope that this is for this purpose, we can set it aside if it comes in. If it says town of Bethany, usually if it's not clear, then we're gonna open it.
Right, thank you for that, that's really helpful. Do you mind sharing this with people in the office?
Yeah, I can tell.
That would be-
Yeah, the mess, yeah, that's, I mean, that's what's done with sealed bids is that it has to come in, it has to be, because otherwise it's gonna get open. and you don't
Right,
want it to be
right,
open.
right.
And then say the LOIs will be opened at a Board of Selectmen meeting.
Unless we're, do you wanna, if we're both available, we can just not have to wait a month.
Two of you cannot be at a public meeting.
I forgot, thank you. See, very helpful,
On 2 steps.
thank you, I appreciate it. It just seems,
But that's not something we need to put in the scope of work. That's our process.
right.
They need to, if they're gonna email it, they email it to Selectmen to, and I guess maybe we should make it capital, and Selectmen 3, and mailed letter of interest must be in sealed envelopes, clearly labeled, letter of interest, independent investigation and review, which would hopefully,
well, I think the heads up, well, people might be like looking out for that, so I think that would be helpful.
and then proposal shall contain the following, and that will be changed to LOIs. Images. And then here's what I was thinking.
I have a question that I need legal advice on. So since you've been so helpful, I feel inclined to ask more questions. So we're at let's say the next Board of Selectmen meeting, and we are handed sealed, a couple of sealed envelopes. So then what? What happens? Like,
You can put in the proposal that received by X date, it will be opened at the next regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting. And then a decision will be made no later than Z date. And it could be that meeting, or you could set a date after the meeting you open the bids. for
So
a
this
deadline
was-
to decide.
so this is like, we have to go back and choose a date on the previous
We
page.
don't have to pick a particular date.
Well,
If we do, we're gonna be bound by it.
right,
Um,
but I mean, it's probably
The
not
the
fair. to-
difficulty with that, see, like, if Jen got them, we could come pick up copies from her and review them ahead of time. Now, the way we set it up, we will not be able to see all of you'll be able to read any that are emailed, but the paper ones will have to have a meeting before we can see. But, I mean, it'll work, it's just.
Yeah, I really, thank you, so
I
then,
would just add, if you're asking for sealed bids, you should not be opening them piecemeal as they come in.
Well, they're not really bids, and we're saying we're gonna take them by email.
Well, they're not necessarily sealed, so I'm just,
Right.
I thought there was some discussion about sealed bids. So
Well, the concern that was expressed was they don't want town staff to open the envelopes. So that's why we were putting the label on them and saying it should be sealed and trying
Like
to
the mailed
label them
ones.
in a
So
way.
why not attention Bob Brenton and Gina to share it? I'm sorry.
that's okay.
This concern.
Yeah, because we had in the draft, it said care of Jen Cafaso, and then in her title, we could say care of Robert Brenton and Gina Texera.
Yeah, that might be better than, because the sealed envelope
And
thing
then
might get,
strike the thing about the sealed envelopes.
yeah.
Okay.
But then what happens, can I ask you a question about mail? If we get mail, it's opened, isn't it? Does the town, I've gotten mail and I can't remember if it's open or not.
If it comes in for you two, which really isn't often,
Mhm.
we get a lot of junk mail, by the way. If it comes in for you two, we usually put it in, I can't think of it ever happening really, but if we do get mail, knowing this, if we do get mail that has your names on it, we can set it aside, we can have a little box and put it in the vault.
But I know there's a mailbox. I used to check it. I haven't checked it in a while. I did get mail there once. It's near where the conference room is. there's a mailbox there. It says,
Mail machine, is there?
yeah, and
There
it
is one.
says,
But there's
it
never
says,
anything in
it
it.
says
Yeah,
select.
never put anything in it. If, I mean, if it does say
It says-
addressed to you two, then
Yeah.
knowing this, we'll keep all that aside.
Okay,
We very rarely get email for, yeah, for the two.
So just our names, or do-
let's just do our names, yeah. So just to finish my question about, we get, delivered, envelopes at a meeting. How do we deal with Paula, who's recused? How do we deal with
She would have
her?
to step down from the dais and remove herself from the table. She could be in the audience, but,
Okay,
and just to go back, I mean, look, if we put in the proposal is in a sealed envelope, that is generally understood to mean that it's gotta be in a second inner envelope
right,
sealed.
but we're not doing that though.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I mean, you're asking how to ensure that nobody else, if they open it inadvertently, you know, it's still preserved for you guys. Putting in the scope here,
So,
delivered in a sealed envelope,
so is it your recommendation that if it's mailed, it should be in a sealed envelope?
mailed or hand delivered, yes, should be in a sealed envelope marked response to the RFP or however you guys have termed it.
Right, but then you can't allow it to be sent by email.
Email is unusual for an RFP and sealed.
But this is not an RFP.
An RFP is the standard phrase for an investigation such as like this.
Well,
It's
I
not
mean-
binding you to
we
the
don't,
law.
we don't have, we could strike the email.
I was emailed the procurement policy right away as evidence that I needed to call this an RFP and,
If you'd like to call it something else, that's fine. You put it on the, I just used RFP, but on the, in the instructions, you would tell the bidder to mark the sealed envelope, proposal or response to X, the term that you have used, LOI, RFP, or proposal, whatever term.
okay, that's helpful,
So you avoid, you know, it getting commingled with anything else.
right?
So
So
we'll,
go back to the
we'll
label,
we'll
yeah,
put the care of
yeah,
our names
yeah.
and leave the thing in, and, it was a good point, I said mailed, otherwise, but it should be paper, right? If we are,
Mailed,
Oh, wait,
paper
are-
submissions,
whether they're hand delivered or mailed or FedExed or
right,
whatever,
so yeah, paper.
paper, and are
You
we,
can actually write and not, you can specify no email.
what's that?
You can specify.
Should we though? Should,
I mean, I think you either want it sealed or you don't want it sealed, right?
We can take the email,
Well,
we
see, the
could remove the
ceiling-
email.
the ceiling wasn't really the point, we were, like, it wasn't, our main goal wasn't to have the sealed submissions, we just wanted to make sure that there was some way that people in the office would know not to open the envelope, because that's what they do, right, they open it, so it's not really that we want to, that we're insisting on sealed submissions. Do you think would it cause any kind of problem if some are emailed and some are submitted to us?
I only put that because it was in here for
Yeah.
Jen Cafaso, and so we changed it to Selectmen too, but we could take email out, that all has to come in paper. We're gonna get 4 copies we asked for, so that you and I can each take a copy and, you know, review it, and then there'll be additional copies that we
But
filed
I
in the
think
town
it's just
hall.
an issue of management, how you guys feel more comfortable managing it. You know, it's coming in 2 different ways or 3 different ways, it may be difficult to manage, but it's up to you. Because you're.
Yeah, let's take email out, because then we're gonna end up having to print the things on our printers.
I have a really good printer.
Um,
I think that, you know, for some, you know, in this digital world, it seems odd to be taking out the electronic submission, you know, when we should try
Yeah, but
making it as
makes,
easy
it
as
does make it
possible.
complicated, that we're saying,
Like I said, it's up to you, just about the management of it. and what you
yeah, it makes it, I mean, it was, when it was Jen Cafaso was gonna get them, and I guess forward this, but if we're like, we don't trust anybody at town hall,
That's not what I said.
well, that, like,
that's-
nobody else can get it.
No, that's not what I said. I didn't say I didn't trust anyone. I went out of my way to say that I thought Jen doesn't, you know, wears many hats and is absolutely capable. My whole goal was to avoid putting anyone in potentially an uncomfortable situation, or it appearing that Paula, who's recused, now has her assistant doing all of the work on this.
No,
I just don't
I
think
think-
that's
I think
appropriate.
let's take email out now because.
You could
these-
say, Bob, you could
these,
say, send them all to Gina. And I'll print them all at home.
The problem is with this home stuff, it's all public documents. How does anybody get them? They're only accessible to us.
Mhm.
So I think we have to take the email out and just say paper. And then we're just asking for them to be, it's like treated like a
All
bid,
right.
treated like a bid, not to be open until,
Not a bid.
until the meeting. No, but treated like a bid and that
Okay.
it's, all right, so is four the right number? I just picked it arbitrarily.
Um,
And then so we have to strike 4 paper copies.
Where are
Of the
the four
LOI.
copies going? Me, you, what do we do with the other ones?
Should be a copy left in the town hall for records.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Can we have some advice on that? Oh, I'm sorry, we were trying to think about how many copies to request with the submissions, so 1, 2, and do we need another one?
Want council to review it, I would request 3, if it's just the 2 of you reviewing,
But should there be copies left in the town hall?
yes, so, yes.
So please.
I would ask. for 3 or 4
Where would the town hall copy go?
in the clerk's office. You can designate, whoever you designate to receive it. So, like, for, you could send it to the finance director, the clerk, tax collector. I don't think you really want the tax collector, just to give you an example, just pick somebody.
But why is there a need to do that? I mean, is there a, like a file cabinet for, investigation?
I don't know your file cabinet.
I don't either, I know.
So, look, it's a public record, so
Mhm.
the town needs to keep a copy of it in case there's a request in the future for it. If the 2 of you are the only one who have it, then the town will have to bother you to get a copy. So, yeah, a copy should be maintained. Most likely, the clerk.
We'll leave it 4.
Hmm?
We'll leave it 4 copies, because if we're the selection committee, we're gonna wanna take them. Assuming there's a lot, we're gonna wanna take them home to read them and leave the other ones here. So 4 paper copies of the letter of interest are required. Strike the thing about PDFs. LOIs shall be signed, they shall be submitted to.
Wait a minute, I think you're way ahead of me.
Okay, I was, so 4 paper copies of the letter of interest are required,
Mhm.
so I struck PDF copy.
Yeah,
All, it says proposals, but I'm substituting letters of interest shall be signed. And then proposals shall be submitted to, I'm saying letters of interest shall be submitted to. And the address, Town of Bethany Board of Selectmen, care of Robert Brenton and Gina Texera, 40 Peck Road, Bethany, Connecticut, 06524. And we're gonna strike all the email addresses.
yeah,
Then we put a sentence in that says, we don't even need to say paper now, because we're all paper. Letters of interest must be in sealed envelopes, clearly labeled, letter of interest, independent investigation and review.
mhm.
Should minimize the chance of it being open before the selectmen's meeting. So our policy is we're gonna open it to select meeting. I don't know if we have to put that in here. We could add that just for their information.
Sure.
LOIs will be open at a Board of Selectmen meeting. That will go right after that.
Okay,
We added LOIs will be open at a Board of Selectmen meeting. And then we'll get into number 5, substitute letters of interest for the word proposal. Letter of interest shall contain the following. And here's what I was thinking. So letter of transmittal, letter should include a brief discussion of the I see what I said, proposers of what noun do you want there? of the
Investigator?
investigatorship, yep. Background, experience, and ability to perform this contract. The letter of interest shall be signed. We already said that, right? So we can
I think
strike
we could strike that, we did that already.
And then I had project understanding and approach. I was thinking just strike that. I think it's gonna be very, we already did all this stuff about scope.
Right, but that's, we're telling them what we want. This is sort of us
It's
asking
fine,
them,
yeah, it's fine.
to tell us what their approach would be.
If we wanna leave it in, yeah. And then I had firm experience,
Instead of written discussion, written like a summary,
written
Just some-
discussion, written,
a summary. It doesn't
Summary.
have to be anything long.
yeah, shorter is better, right?
Yeah,
In sufficient detail to demonstrate an understanding of the project and the proposers, everywhere it says proposers, we're gonna say investigators.
yeah,
Anticipated approach to the investigation and review.
period after investigation.
That's fine, yeah, I mean, we titled the whole thing review, but it's
Right.
fine, we don't have to add it everywhere. Firm experience, under that heading, please provide a detailed written summary of the investigator's relevant background, education, qualification, experience, capability, perform anticipated scope of work. It's fine,
It's fine.
kinda. Staff plan and qualifications, identify the personnel who will work on the investigation, should strike review there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And their roles and responsibilities. Provide information about background, education, qualification, experience relevant to this project, resumes of all personnel. The difference between the two, the first one was talking about the firm, assuming we're talking about a large firm.
right.
And then if the firm has 300 people in it, which ones are working on my
Right,
project?
right.
Because,
Right.
so they might want to say, my firm has done these investigations,
Mhm.
but then you're like, that's great. How about the people who will be working on mine?
Right.
These things are gonna be much streamlined if it's an individual, obviously. They're
Right.
just gonna say.
Right,
these are-
and this, the firm thing wouldn't apply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Arbitrarily ask for 3 references, ideally from similar projects. And then have all the information that you want from them. The last sentence, references should be projects similar to the scope of services for this, what we call LOI. And should be recent. Providing, I've never called anybody with references on bids or anything that gave a bad reference, but
Have you ever called a reference for a job thing? Like if you want to hire someone?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But do they ever give bad ones?
I've gotten some
Oh,
interesting
okay.
feedback.
I've always like if they, if a contractor works on a project and it went south, they don't list that one unless you happen to know about it.
Yeah,
Schedule, provide an anticipated schedule. I mean, that's
I
okay.
think it's okay.
At least it'll give us a heads up of what they're thinking.
Mhm.
By no means would that tie them in if they say, oh, I can get it done in 3 weeks.
Right,
And it takes them 3 weeks just to set up meetings with people. Fee proposal, please submit the hourly rate rates for the personnel that will be involved in the investigation and review if any other charges are proposed, for example, mileage, printing, et cetera, please list these rates. And then I had, based on the anticipated scope of work, schedule and proposed rates, please indicate an estimated total fee. Do you want to strike the last line or leave it in? I was thinking we should at least ask for the rates. Is that may be a factor we want to take into account. But it might be asking too much of them before they even get started. How much do you think the total is going to cost?
yeah, I don't know.
I was thinking of striking that last part. But if you want to leave it in, it's fine.
I'm sort of on the fence because I think that we as a town have an interest in having this information sooner rather than later. I mean, again, not like so soon that it's not a real investigation, but I wonder if having just one thing that says, what do you think? What's your estimate for this?
I wrote it, but then I was thinking about it going, they don't even know how many people they're gonna have to interview or how much effort.
Right,
So I'm not sure if
right.
it's helpful. We can leave it in, because they're just gonna say, based on what I know, here's what I think. but
right,
the
right.
final number may be very
I don't think
different.
it hurt. Do you have an opinion on whether or not we should ask for an estimated total fee?
I think that you don't really have any idea what the range would be right now. I mean, it would be a complete guess.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a decision you all have to make once you get the proposal.
right,
And then, see, this one's high, this one's low, but this is the general range for whichever one's it. So I wouldn't say.
I think it's gonna be very difficult for a respondent to provide an estimated
Yeah.
number of hours and total fee that will be charged, and then
yeah,
if you request that and numbers come in and they're significantly lower than what the final bill is, then
right,
you have issues.
right,
So I'm thinking, strike it, because certainly should ask them their rates,
right,
because that might make a difference. If there's some great firm in Washington DC, but they charge $600 an hour, plus all travel and hotel and restaurant expenses,
right.
we're gonna take that into account, because they're gonna go through the
Really
money pretty
quickly,
quickly, yeah,
All right, so let's take it out, the last sentence.
yeah.
That's gonna be one of the data points in your decision-making process.
Right, so this isn't the bid, so they're just gonna say, here's our rates, and
Mhm.
at some point, they're gonna have to, after we select which firm, they're gonna have to, sign an agreement with us, and at some point, we're gonna tell them, with the checking in with us, I mean, we need to know if you're gonna go, 75,000 is gonna come and go, because it was left, like, if we need more, we have to go back to the finance
Right,
board, the
right.
town meeting, and they're gonna want information on, well, what was done and what remains to be done. Not the specific findings,
Right.
but why are you asking for more money?
Right, are you halfway through, are you, where are you?
Right.
Yeah,
Just a clarification on the process, you have not gotten Board of Finance approval or.
we have approval for 75,000.
You may want to put that there,
But it was, the 75,000 was raised from what the initial number was. The initial number was just based on a wild assumption, and then they raised it based on another wild assumption. So
Okay.
I don't wanna limit somebody who thinks it's gonna be a little more than that and said, oh, I'm not gonna waste my time, they only have 75,000. I'm hoping we spend less than that. But,
And it could be a negotiation point too,
right,
maybe negotiate people down.
I mean, it is a fact that
Right.
anybody can find out.
Just to Thomas's point there, I have not seen the documents you guys are working off of, so I don't know if it's coming up, but, you may wish to interview some of the respondents.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
that's in there, that's in here. That's it, so look, this thing is pretty good,
And when
right?
you interview, that's a question, that's one of the questions you
Right,
ask. So
right.
you'll have all that information and making a decision.
Yeah.
So then the next section is currently titled Evaluation and Award. There's a section called Selection Criteria and Selection Procedures. And so I'll just say here's what I was thinking of doing. And if you want to leave the stuff in, it's not wrong, but in the interest of shortening it, I was thinking of striking most of the section. Because, I stole it from another proposal
Right,
for a different purpose. However, instead of the 6.1 or 6.2, just underneath, I would change the title to maybe something like evaluation. Or LOI evaluation. And
And just
then
have
just
one-
have like
one-
two things under it. Number one would be what is currently under the heading mandatory experience, but don't say mandatory. Just say, number one would be the proposer must have experience performing similar investigation and reviews.
okay,
And
I'm okay with that they have, the investigator
must have experience
must have experience.
performing similar investigation reviews.
Okay,
If this is the first one they did, we're probably not gonna.
right, I agree.
And then I'd made up stuff about preferred experience. I'm like, maybe just don't even, just because there were those headings under the previous thing I was
Yeah.
following, the template I was
Yeah,
following.
Right, I mean, we definitely don't care if they have investigation experience of criminal issues, because that's not relevant here.
Well, I mean, they may need to understand if they're communicating with the state police or DCF, but I was just thinking, just strike it. If we're, the mandatory experience and the rest of it is just stuff that we consider when we're reviewing the
So
strikes of
strike
the-
B and strike C. Do you want to just read them so people know what we're striking?
Yeah, preferred experience. The proposer should have knowledge of and experience with criminal investigations, education law, employment law, and standards and requirements applicable to after-school childcare and park and recreation programs. If you want to leave it in, it's okay. It's just, I was trying to shorten it to like, what do we really need to mention under the evaluation criteria? It's not really wrong, it's just, when I read through it last night, I'm like, I think we get rid of most
Do you
of this
think that
stuff.
if we leave it in, it would turn a good candidate away for some reason?
Well, I mean, it was put in because you're trying to inform, say an engineer, how you're gonna review the thing, and then they know either what to focus on in a proposal, or also if they really don't have that kind of experience, then maybe don't waste anybody's time. But I don't know in this case if that stuff is really as critical as it implies by sticking it in there. I only put it in there because the template I was using had preferred experience, so I put in stuff
Mhm.
under there. So we don't have to delete it, but I was just suggesting that. Also suggesting deleting most of the rest of the section. The background, education, qualifications, and relevant experience of key personnel to be assigned to the project. Also qualifications of any sub-consultants or subcontractors the proposer intends to use. Again, this is stuff we're doing. I don't know if we have to tell them that that's stuff that we're gonna consider in the selection process. It's okay, as long as we wanna put it in, but I didn't know appropriate licenses,
Right.
such as attorney held by proposer staff. References attesting to the quality of similar services. This is not asking for it, we already asked for that information, not saying we're gonna consider it. But I was just saying, strike all that stuff.
Mhm.
I did suggest, in addition to number one, the proposer must have experience performing similar investigation reviews. Then have a number two, which just kind of has the legal clarifying stuff, which would be like the information in currently under 6.2A.
Right,
The town reserves the right to reject any or all proposals, to accept any proposal, to negotiate changes to proposal terms, and to waive minor inconsistencies with the, in this case, LOI, if deemed in the best interest of the town. And then maybe adding after that, the last portion of this section beforehand, which is currently entitled G, I think. So not competitiveness of proposed fees and costs, but just say, the town is not bound to select the proposer with the lowest fees and costs. The town reserves the right to negotiate fees with the selected proposer.
I don't even have that, I think I just deleted it.
Okay,
Is it
so I was thinking of just adding it to the,
this one?
yeah, not the first part, not, I wouldn't do
Okay.
this.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna start this with a capital, and then I would just bring this sentence down if we're making this another one.
Okay,
So I'm getting rid of the separate headings for selection criteria, selection procedures. And then, so we'd be striking proposals submitted in response to this RFP will be reviewed by the Board of Selectmen using the selection criteria listed above. Some or all proposers may be invited to an interview. We could put that in if we want, or just, that's what's gonna develop. We invite them into an interview. If they refuse to come, then that's the end, right? The town intends to enter a contract with a firm whose proposals be best. I think we can strike that, and that was the end of it. So if you wanna leave all the stuff in and tweak the language,
we could take out D.
if you wanna,
I mean, I-
add in
you-
the thing about the interview.
C, is that C?
Yeah, so I was proposing changing it to like proposal evaluation, or I guess LOI evaluation in this
Okay.
case. And then, totally redoing under that, just having like item one, the proposer must have experience performing civil investigation and reviews.
Yeah. You don't want anything about preferred experience?
It's fine if you want to leave it in.
Would there be anything that you would add to that?
I think I would not, I would just make that number 2 and then don't say mandatory experience or preferred experience, just because we said must have and then should have knowledge of an experience. But I don't know if that's really that important.
What if we said or instead of and?
Should have knowledge of or experience.
No, like there's a whole list of things, and if we said it here or park and rec, like here's a list, like you should have,
and/or.
you should have some experience in
Yeah,
some
make it
of
and-
these
Make it
areas.
and or.
Yeah.
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 And usually when you say stuff under preferred, it means the fact that you don't have one of all of these
Is it a
isn't
deal
necessary.
killer?
Exactly. So if you want to leave it in, fine. And then I don't know if we need to have the section C that says we're gonna consider the stuff that we asked for in the
I don't think we need to
proposal.
see.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to see. I'm gonna.
and then I had missed letters
That's
or
okay.
whatever, so which is, and then do you want licenses?
I don't.
I mean, we're gonna, this is just saying, we're just
Just.
considering it, but we don't need to tell them what we're considering. References, of course, we're gonna take them into account. Why do you have to tell them you're gonna take them into account, right? Right,
Right.
so you want
We
it,
could take out the E and F, right?
yeah,
And
so, but we're gonna have,
it's
gonna
not
call it-
really necessary to tell all the applicants that.
yeah,
this is.
I was just following a
Yeah,
template.
no,
and
no,
it's
yeah,
not
I get it.
applicable. All right, so it's gonna be LOI evaluation reward. We're gonna take out the heading selection criteria. We're gonna take out the thing that says A, mandatory experience, and just start with 1. And then we'll take out B, preferred experience, but then start with the sentence, the investigator.
Yeah.
And then that's gonna be item 2. And item 3 is gonna be the legal language.
6.2A, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. So we're gonna take out the heading 6.2. We're gonna
Mhm,
take out
yeah,
the A's, B's, and C's.
Yeah,
But we're gonna have the town reserves the right to reject any and all proposals, accept any proposal, negotiate changes. And then I think we should add back in the stuff that you had stricken out, the last part of that previous section. The town is not bound to select the
Okay.
proposer with the lowest fees. Town reserves the right to negotiate fees. And we're really beating them over the
so
head.
is that
but it's-
4?
It could be, yeah.
Okay,
You want 4? We'll make it 4.
Okay.
It definitely could be a separate one. 4.
Yeah,
So 4 would be, the town is not bound. And then yeah, we're definitely gonna strike the next thing. Proposals submitted will be reviewed by the Board of Selectmen.
yeah, that's just obvious, right?
Do you want to have the sentence that, some or all proposers may be invited to an interview?
Either way, I'm okay with
doesn't
that
hurt.
either way. Yeah, we could leave it in.
That'll be number 5.
Okay.
That's 5. And then I don't think we intend to enter a
No.
contract.
No,
The only other thing that wasn't listed and that we might want to add to this part, do we want to say, do we want to make it clear that there'll be no payment for responding, for the responses to the letter of interest or attendance at interviews? Or it should be understood that before you're hired, you're not
I
getting
think it's
paid.
understood.
Okay.
I mean, I think if we get a bill, then it'll be my fault, right? So we're almost done, but I wanted to ask about sort of like the fact that, this is sort of an, unique situation we're in, and we can get responses, we can get, mail, like we're going to announce that that's the way to respond to this. It's gonna be posted. If anyone knows of anyone that might be interested or a good candidate, then please spread the word. And wanted to talk to you a little bit about what do we do for, what should we do in terms of like, oh, and I didn't get to this yet either. Is this gonna be an attachment? Well, anyway, one thing at
Yeah, I
a
think
time.
because they're I haven't even read them yet, but very specific questions. I mean, I think it may be that we should reference it in the scope of work and say, well, we have those general ones. A list of some questions that have been asked by townspeople is attached for information.
Okay, so I want to read some of this because we don't have copies for anyone.
Yeah.
And I want to just say that my other question is about how do we handle the fact that some entities, maybe law firms who would be good at this type of investigation, they're not gonna see a legal notice or a notice anywhere and say, oh, let me send in a letter of interest. So and I've gotten recommendations from people in town. And I know Vin has someone that he wants us to look
I
at.
thought he had, so he had listed.
Yeah, I know,
There's a couple.
yeah.
Yeah, he had listed
I
off a
know of at
bunch
least
of
two, but-
law firms, and he mentioned an attorney who like had been in law enforcement.
Right.
So he had some names.
FBI,
There were some names that were handed to me at the town meeting by one of the attendees.
yeah.
I think those were not attorneys. And I given those to Attorney Marino. But basically, so I was thinking if Jen was gonna be the one managing the notice, that she would get all the lists that Attorney Marino had, they would get individual notification of the RFP or the RFP sent to them.
As the town usually posts it.
Well, I assume there's gonna have to also be like a New Haven Register legal ad. I think is the way they do it. They also put it on the website, but that's not really,
CCM, they also have a bid posting.
we could use that too, but I'm pretty sure for their other things, they do the register is the legal notice. So usually you put it in there, that's posting. Any other postings are fine. I mean, you're trying to get as much interest, and then you have to individually invite anyone you know who might be. I know Attorney Marino had mentioned some law firms, he rattled them off, like, I know one was Pullman and Conley. He might have said Bertram and Moses.
Yes, I think he did.
There was one,
The FBI guy.
no, but there was a firm in like a Hartford-based firm. You said Chipman and Goodwin, but there was a different one.
Shipman and Goodwin was
Um,
recommended to me by 2 or 3 people. And
So I think it should
how many
be,
Conleys in Hartford? Oh, they're all over, I guess.
I thought they were in like Bridgeport.
They're in
Yeah, they
Hartford
had
as
different
well.
offices.
Mhm.
There was a different one where he mentioned the attorney by name, but he was part of a bigger firm. Anyway, so he rattled off, he had like 6 or something at the time. So we want to get those, the 3 that somebody handed me, and any other ones you and I come up with that would receive invitations or receive notice of this, be sent a copy of this, or let them know how to get it. Then there needs to be some kind of a legal ad placed, which really has to be done by town staff. I don't think you and I should be doing that. So really, it's just gonna be the title, and then maybe just this intent. Right?
Oh, the section,
Or maybe just the title and then referring them to the website or something, or because,
right,
I mean, is it all right to,
You
maybe,
could publish a notice that says you're soliciting invitations to respond. Refer them to the website
yeah,
or an office here in town hall to pick up the physical.
all right, so there's gonna be a newspaper, legal notice. Just saying Town of Bethany, request for letters of interest, independent investigation or review, and then providing where they can get the full.
Yes.
um,
And I don't want to interrupt your flow, but there are, I think, two provisions you should be adding to the proposal. So
the mechanics are also gonna be any firms or individuals that Attorney Marino has or that we come up with would then need to be notified by phone or email. And then who should handle that? The town attorney, the town
I
staff
think you and I
member?
should do that. You take half, I'll take half.
Okay. I think it's better if it was done by town staff, but
I wanna do it, so I think we should do it.
all right, well, we don't want them to be communicating with us, though. We have to
Oh.
make it, the firms, they should just be I really think it should be somebody, not us,
Why?
because we're the selection committee, so why are they communicating with us?
I don't understand that. I don't understand. What is there a problem or a conflict with that?
I don't know. It's kind of highly unusual to have somebody outside of town hall handling the
Right,
procurement
but in
stuff.
this situation, Paula is recused and she supervises everybody here. So that's, I think,
All right, well,
I think that's a
we're
problem.
getting back to the problem of it. I mean, you and I cannot pay these people and all that stuff. And you can't do this completely outside of the town.
Well, we can do as much as we can.
All right, so we will have to obtain these names from Attorney Marino.
Yeah,
And any other ones. The list of who they're sent to should be compiled somehow. Right?
yes, yes. So we need like a,
So
List.
we don't trust anybody in the town, so you will have to tell me everyone you contacted, and I will tell you the ones I contacted.
or we could have a list and we could divide it and say you call these people and I call these people.
Right, but if I know of somebody else, I have to let you know that that I contacted them, right? Or it doesn't matter?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Are we gonna leave this meeting and start calling people?
No, because the edits we made have to be compiled, and then we have to, I assume, have another meeting.
Yeah, I think we need a
Unless,
master list of the,
Who's gonna be notified?
who's gonna be notified, and then we could, maybe at the next meeting decide, you call these three, I'll call these three, you
Okay,
call these six
So
or
at the
seven,
next,
depending
at the
on.
next meeting, we have to have those names
Mhm.
you can get from your law firm, the ones that have been identified. And then if there's any other names that we're gonna,
I would suggest if you wish to solicit bids directly, that you send a letter.
yeah, Gina, I really think that it'd be better if we had town staff do this and just inform us.
I don't feel comfortable with that. Like, who in town, who do you want to do that?
I don't, Leslie, Bocce, there's not that many people.
But I'm just trying to, I hear you, and I'm
The
trying
town
to figure
clerk's
it out.
office, you want the town clerk's office?
I'm just trying to figure out how this works, because these are people who Paula supervises, so how do we
Again,
know?
you're not saying the words, but you're saying no one in town hall can be trusted with any of this.
No,
Not-
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, how do you not cross the line of the recusal?
Well, not everyone is recused. Right?
I think if Paula's recused.
So you're worried
someone
that she's gonna come in and lean over the shoulder and go, don't send it to that firm, lie and say you did.
I don't
send it to
know. I
them."
mean, she got involved in the agenda,
Okay, well,
so, which is.
I mean,
I don't
can
understand why she would do
can the
that.
town attorneys notify the people that they know and just let us know who they notified? Or do we have to do it personally?
I mean, I think that's fine.
I think they're gonna think it's a little weird if they're like, why is Robert Brittany sending me a letter? I don't know who this person is,
Yeah, but
It's
so
not on letterhead or anything, it's just,
we can get letterhead.
but we're just doing it as individuals. We could do it that way, it just seems a little weird that I
If
think you're
you-
making it more difficult than
if-
necessary by making out everyone in town hall is corrupt.
Bob, okay, I want to say, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm
You
saying
didn't
is
say the
that
words, but we can't,
I've seen actual evidence of Paula's inability to act in a way that shows she understands what recusal means over and over again. And so, yes, I have concerns of what happens when I'm not here. And I'm not making this up, right? Many times we've seen where she's at the table and she comments on the issue when she's recused, or she insists that the agenda has to be her way when she's not here and is recused. Why does the agenda have to be written her way? So if I haven't seen this evidence of her inability to act like she understands what it means to be recused from an issue, I would behave differently, and I would agree with you, and I would be grateful for Jen's support or whoever else. But yes, I feel uncomfortable with someone who openly defies that recusal and acts contrary to that recusal and hasn't recused from a more obvious conflict than this, Yes, I have concerns about her understanding of where the lines are. And there's evidence all over the place to support my concern. So I agree with you that it would be easier if we can do it that way. There's no doubt it would be easier. And that's why, if our attorneys want to help us with that, I'm happy to do that.
All right, so would you be okay with the town attorney sending out a notification? The notification is gonna be generic, right? It just has to be, this is to notify, or just sending the whole document. If it's not gonna be that long, right?
Oh, this thing?
Yeah,
I don't think it'd be that long.
so either that or just a very short letter that says the document's available at the website. And then providing us with a list of who was notified.
I would love to see a draft letter, just the template letter,
Okay,
if
so,
that's okay.
so the mechanics
Our
are,
office can handle that. I would just add, you guys have spent a lot of time this evening stressing this needs to be independent. And I agree.
Thank
The
you.
perception of either of you calling select firms and then potentially being awarded an outcome not desirable to anyone in the populace creates an appearance of impropriety.
It's interesting how I think you're right about that, but it's interesting how our attorneys are so quick to notice a potential conflict in this instance, but not in other instances that are more flagrant.
No comment.
I'm just saying that, I don't need you to answer. I just want to say that.
so a legal ad will be drafted for the next meeting and a generic notification letter, which will be mailed to a list of firms and individuals. And that list should also be available for the next meeting so that we can review it and then potentially add to it. And then, at least as of this point, we will assume that town staff will place the legal ad. Unless we want to pay for it ourselves. And then the notification will be done by the town attorney's firm. And they'll let us know that that was done. The stuff we went through today, I think needs to be typed up and just to make sure
I could do
it's all
that,
done.
but
Yeah. Just to incorporate all the edits
Yeah.
and then again, that would be sent to both of us prior to the next meeting so that we can just approve the final
yeah,
request for letter of interest as it's been edited tonight. And then we've got that process. You had brought up, there's a series of questions that you have, and there may be, I think you, in the beginning, we're open to receiving additional ones until that is finalized. But I think all of these extremely specific things, we should probably put a reference in the scope of work.
yeah, if you,
Or under the back, I guess, under the background section where we listed a couple of general questions, and then maybe there just say,
yes,
a non-inclusive list of just of questions that members of the public have asked is attached for
Right.
information.
and so this was that way at the beginning of the meeting where we talked about background, and then we had examples of questions that we remembered from town meetings, and we read them, and I think there were 9. And I just had, and some of these might be a duplicate, so you're saying that it would be like an addendum?
Yeah, and then, because you left it open, people can submit additional questions, which would then be added to that.
Right,
And I guess it's probably fine to even have a duplicate. This is
right.
not necessarily, I haven't read them all.
It's not
This is not
exhaustive.
necessarily your scope of work. It's just to answer these questions and you're done.
Right.
But under the background section, we had like 9 questions. And then before the last paragraph, which explains the recusal of first selectwoman, insert some kind of a line that says a list of additional questions that have been asked by members of the public is attached for reference, something like that.
Right, because it's the whole point of this investigation is that people have these questions. I want to read the questions for the record, but before I do that, I just want to clarify So are we saying that a letter will go out to the firms or individuals that we've identified? Is it a letter or a phone call?
I think he's suggesting a written.
I would suggest to write an email or a letter.
Okay,
The other thing is, we did have in here, and there would be need, we can adjust it for the final, but before it goes out, we will have to say what the deadline is for it.
right, right.
Which will probably
Actually, yeah.
depend on when we're gonna approve the final.
Well, we have a couple options. We could look at the date of the next regular meeting, or we can schedule another special
Next
meeting.
regular meeting is, I know it's not next week, it's 2 weeks out. It's,
It's like 3 weeks. So it's September, is it the 3rd?
that sounds right. Second is Labor Day, right?
Right.
So do we want to wait that long? And there'll be other items on the agenda, so we would not have a lot of time to put into this.
Do you want to do a special meeting?
No, but I guess we have to. Maybe the last week of August.
That works for me. Do you want to do a Thursday again?
Yeah, I think when I was talking to the town clerk's office, the way meetings work is most people prefer the beginning of the month, so there's very little going on. So we could, I think we could reserve this room again.
Okay,
Do you want to, oh, I cannot do the 29th.
okay.
I know, the meeting I went to before, they
Yeah,
scheduled
yeah.
another meeting on the
How
29th.
about,
Can't miss that one, Bob.
What's that?
Can't miss that one.
No,
how about the 28th?
28th should be okay, Wednesday. Yeah, this is like the last week of the month. I don't think anything's on 4th. I'm okay with that. Yours
Okay.
good? And what time? We could do it earlier than 7:30.
6:30?
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna do a 6:30. 6:30, so we'll have to have the notices sent out, special meeting. And it'll be just like tonight, right? It's just gonna be that one,
Yeah, just one item. And, I don't know if I have to make a motion to strike the term request for proposals, but that's what I'd like to do.
yeah, make a letter of interest now, or
I don't even know if I like that, but,
unless you come up with something better, it's gonna say that.
all right. And it's all over the draft. It's all over the draft.
Yeah.
Um,
Special board of selectmen, 6:30 on Wednesday, August 28th.
We'll have public comment related to the investigation, if anyone has.
Exactly, yeah, pretty much exactly the same as tonight, except changing that RFP,
Thank you.
hopefully. Even if it says RFP, it's still fine for notice.
It's not though. It's not an RFP.
I know, it provides people, and people know what we're talking about.
I think it's confusing. So,
So that's the date we will have a special meeting, and hopefully prior to that time, we'll have revised these edits. We'll get a list of the firms to be notified from the town attorney's office.
okay.
And I don't have any other ones other than the names of 3.
I have a couple,
Yeah.
that one person gave me a slip of paper at a meeting and I don't think I have it, but I'll get it together for next time. So I have
Or we
just.
can maybe
just
get it ahead of time.
And have
We
it as a final.
can get people to pass around, so there's one list.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, one list.
Just want to make sure that you guys put in the qualifications that they demonstrate adequate insurance coverage. General, professional.
All right, should we put that in?
That's.
This is this is a request for letter of interest. In that last,
Qualification section where they have to demonstrate to you that they believe they're qualified, they should demonstrate their insurance.
maybe that's, this is the last
Maybe the.
section where we have some.
Evaluation
Yeah,
section?
legal stuff where we're like, we don't have to put this, so
We
add,
have 5, right? We have 5. We can add a
so
6th
add
that
6.
says.
So what do we want to say that,
We want general liability coverage, probably $1 million, professional practice, $1 million. Workers' comp per statute, if you want to require umbrella, it's probably not necessary. And
the selected firm,
town should be named as an additional insured.
should we get information from the finance director, or is that, do they have
Probably
standard?
prudent, yeah.
The selected firm or individual will be required to provide evidence of required insurance, and then we'll insert the language. So I'm sure she's got minimum coverage amounts for different categories.
Okay, thank you. That's a great suggestion. We're on a
You
roll.
said you have two things, right?
Oh, yeah, and the other one, and I apologize if I missed it, you should have somewhere in there that the town, doesn't discriminate in selection process, against,
Do you have to say that?
probably should for sure.
Boilerplate.
Never hurts.
I agree.
Unless you want to discriminate.
Well, we are going to
Would you
discriminate
advise us
because
to do that?
we're only gonna choose one firm, so. That's fine. Standard non-discrimination language.
I'll put that in there.
That's fine, yeah. As soon as anybody reads it, they just ignore it anyway, because they already know what it says. Individual evidence of insurance. I'm just gonna make a note to get from Leslie. So if you're doing the typing, right?
Yeah, it's,
Then yeah,
It's
once you
already-
get it done, you can send it out, we'll request these things, have a meeting in just under 2 weeks, right? And
Yes,
hopefully
just
then
under.
that will be finalized, and then at that meeting, we can. Well, if we do finalize on the 28th, do you want to pick what the due date would be? You have to give people
Oh.
a certain amount of, like, if we do that in the evening, it's not gonna get in the register till like the 30th at the earliest. And the letters won't get there until maybe the next Monday. Yeah, I assume you want to give people a couple of weeks to put things together, or maybe it shouldn't take that long. But anyway, so are we gonna want to do a special meeting or deal with it on the 8th? It was on the 1st of October. Maybe we should do a special meeting if, problem with doing it at the regular meeting, if there's a big
Right,
agenda,
right.
it's, it gets to be 11:30 at
right,
night.
right. I agree.
So that we will do an opening. Although, I mean, we could do the opening, we're just gonna have to take all the. I mean, if there's one, it makes it easy, but if there's 10 submissions, we're just gonna take them home and review them.
Right.
So maybe we should do a special meeting prior to that one to try to accelerate the process. Looking maybe at towards the end of the 3rd week of September or beginning of the 4th week to give the people,
Yeah.
it's just, I think the way we have it written, oh no, that's when we would that's when we would ask the response for, right? We have to give them at least 2 weeks, maybe
Yeah.
3 weeks. So when would we ask for the response for, and then we would be having a meeting after that? When they would be formally opened.
I mean,
You want them to submit it by, say, 4 PM on September 18th?
are we gonna be ready for that?
No, that just means it has to be received at the town hall by that date. Or do you want to have it be the date that we're opening it is the deadline date? You could have that be the case too.
Can we just decide that at our next meeting?
You can.
Yeah, because I think. Yeah, I think we better hold on that.
So that would be to be determined.
Yeah,
The deadline for submission, and then when we're going to. I mean, we can't set if we're not making it at the same time, you could.
you're
it could
saying
be-
deadline for submission, meaning people have to send us their.
It could be the same time as we have a meeting, or it could be, look, you gotta have it in by this date on Wednesday.
Right.
And if it's not postmarked that date, you're late.
Right.
If we don't have a deadline, then
Right, no, we need a deadline. It's just hard because I don't know, like, when our attorneys are gonna be available to, have the list and send stuff out, what their workload
yeah,
is.
that should be done ahead of time. But anyway, so we have the meeting for August 28th, and
Yeah.
we'll hopefully finalize it, and then it can go out and be advertised.
So I just want to read the addendum that,
Is this my copy?
yeah, so it's, it's really just, notes that I had for meetings and public meetings and comments people made about why this investigation is, what sorts of answers they wanted. And the general theme, I think, is that, like, we really shouldn't complicate it, right? People really want to know basic things, basic answers to questions like, and again, some of this is repetitive, I apologize, but who was told in December 2022? What were they told? What did they do in response to that information? What has been done since? What were policies, procedures, and trainings of Park and Rec at that time? When, if ever, did the policies, procedures, and trainings change? What did Paula know? When did she know it? Did she speak with the state police? If so, when? Was she actually told not to tell anyone about the investigation that came to light in December of 2022? If so, by whom, when? When did she tell the town attorney? When did she tell the Board of Selectmen? Would she have been in violation of any law if she had issued a vague statement in December of 2022? I put it in there again.
This is fine. This is a list of
Yeah, just
questions that
questions.
people have had. So this is
Yeah.
it's like a quote. You say what,
Yeah,
you don't
right,
edit
right.
people's quotes, yeah.
Was she involved in the continued employment of Anthony Mastrangelo after December 2022? When did she ask for a review of Park and Rec protocols, if at all? Did she speak with Anthony M. or his mother about this? Did she notify anyone at Park and Rec about alleged abuse? Why was Anthony M. hired by her husband's insurance firm? What did Janice actually know, and when did she know it? What did the superintendent tell her? Did she speak with Anthony? I think that question meant Anthony Cofrancesco, but I'm not sure. I'm just looking at my notes.
And then the next one, it was,
Was she ordered to keep Anthony on as an employee? Why didn't she send out a letter to Park and Rec families? Why did she not insist on having social workers, trainings, et cetera, for parents and kids age appropriate after December 2022? What about BCS? Should this be added to the investigation review or scope? What was the superintendent told? What did she do? When did she tell Paula? When did she speak to Janice? Why didn't she send out a notice to BCS parents? Something could have been sent out. Why didn't she offer counseling for parents or students after December 2022? Did she know Anthony M. was still working at Park and Rec, feet away from the school after December 2022? What about Anthony Cofrancesco? What was he told and when was he told it? He has already admitted that he was aware that Anthony M. was under investigation, even when he was working at Park and Rec after December 2022. Did he have conversations with other counselors? What and when? And what was his training? So this is just accumulation of notes and meetings and to be added as examples of questions that residents in town had and are hoping for answers from the investigation.
I think that the number one should be stricken, because it's not a.
Oh, it's not a question. Yeah. I'll take that
note
out.
to yourself.
That's a note to myself,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
And then the second one, I mean.
I don't even think
may-
I read it, but
Maybe take out, don't complicate it. I mean, we need answers to basic
Right,
questions is
right.
fine.
yeah.
And in terms of this, I don't think you have to be that worried about capitalization and stuff like that. It's
Oh,
you can fix it.
Did I
No,
not
no.
capitalize them?
Well, there's a few but I mean, it's fine for,
Oh, like
you're
this
trying to
here,
give
like
them,
this?
yeah.
Okay, I'll do it.
But you don't have to if you don't want to.
I'm gonna do it.
But what about BCS question mark is fine, and then add it to the investigation and review scope, that's
So,
not
I'll
really a
take it
question
out.
for them.
Yeah,
You can leave the
I'll
added to
take it out.
BCS if you want, either ones, but the rest are all
just questions. And just so people know, the first two lines that I wrote to myself that Bob suggested that I strike was this draft may be too broad and the scope too much. Don't complicate it. And so that's gonna be removed. It's just ramblings, as I was.
Yeah,
putting
so it
this
should
together
all,
for
so
my
it's
notes.
just a series of questions which you just read. And then if we receive other ones in the interim and they're not duplicative, we could
Right,
add them to this
Mhm.
attachment. To really to give anybody who's not familiar with it, a background in general, what is the town looking for them to
yeah.
look into?
Right, what were people asking it, especially at that first meeting where it was news, it was new and people were upset. And these are the kinds of things that people have been asking since that day.
If you're calling this an addendum or an attachment,
Yeah. Or attachment probably.
and then you said you have copies of the arrest reports, because those have
I
to be,
do, yeah.
if they're not available
Yeah, I do, I
online,
can
we have to attach them.
I'll attach, I'll
There's a
make
lot of
copies.
information in there that would be hard to, I mean, I guess they're all available in the court files, but
Right,
it's
save
better,
time.
it's better if we make it an attachment then.
Mm,
So those
I'll-
should
I'll
be,
atta- I'll
that'll be
attach
like
that.
attachment one, this should be like attachment two.
Okay. Attachment one is all five?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's all the information that, the media reports, and if anybody went to the website at the time, they would have seen those things, and then that's the knowledge that the public was aware of at that time. I think we're in pretty good shape.
okay.
Anything else you want to cover tonight?
I don't think so.
right.
Anything else you want to cover?
No, there's just a little homework. You're doing some typing. We're getting that list from the attorney, just, and
Yeah, the only thing, like, as I go along, did we resolve every single issue, or did we say we'll go back to something?
we did. I mean, because I remember the beginning, background, I was suggesting we strike the rest of it, but I did say, I'm not totally, yeah, I was saying, I think you could shorten it, but you wanted to leave it in, and I'm fine with that. It's,
All right, do you mind if I think about it?
No.
Okay,
yeah, I was just trying to shorten it and saying, maybe I'm going a little too far with, I wrote down things that I had heard, but
right,
then I'm like, should I even be like putting all this stuff down and telling the investigator? Because I don't know that it's all true. So that was the only reason I was gonna try to shorten it up a little bit. But if you want to leave it in, they're all clarified as reportedly,
right.
because that's all they are, stuff that was reported to me.
Mhm.
And
So now what do we do? A motion to adjourn?
I'm okay
I
with
was
that.
gonna ask, did you make a motion to amend the item on tonight's agenda proposals to be letters of interest?
I don't think you need to make a motion for next agenda,
Right.
but thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, I think the only, it's since we're not taking action on the finalizing the LOI tonight, right? We're still in draft
Yeah,
form.
I think we need to.
Then adjournment is the next item.
I mean, I wanted to change this agenda because it's.
You
Huh?
can't change a special meeting.
Why not?
Well, it's already been posted.
Well, all right, well, then the next agenda isn't gonna say that. Right?
I'm not putting it out, but I will make it clear that you wanted to
Thank
say
you,
letters
I
of
appreciate
interest.
it. It's just such a minor thing. I don't understand why such, pushback. I have a
move adjournment?
question just one question for the
Yeah.
attorneys. Does the procurement policy have anything to do with this project here?
Not right, Bethany's procurement.
But in your experience in general? I mean, are we bound by the procurement policy and the work that we're doing?
Generally, when you're hiring like a professional, like a lawyer or something, then you're open to hire whoever you want and not required to follow like a minimum bid.
Thank you. Do you want a copy? I have it right here. You can have it if you want.
If you'd like me to review it, sure.
Oh, no, I don't want to, I don't want to give you like work. I think you have enough on your plate. So, but if you want it for the file, I have it here.
I mean, even if even if it is, the town, the board of selectmen can waive bids. I did read that. in the ordinance.
No, I mean, I just
And
think,
waive the process, even if it were the process
Right.
for professional services. Yeah, you wouldn't want to do bidding for professional services.
I just,
Although I understand why you want to take money into account, but, I don't think you want to hire the cheapest doctor, the cheapest attorney.
I just think it's strange that a simple request to make the agenda more accurate was, the response was, a refusal to do
It's
so.
just illegal to change this. That's
No,
the-
no, I'm talking about
March, yeah,
before
yeah.
the meeting. I asked for,
No, but I think once it's set.
no, it
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
set. It
it
wasn't
was
set. It wasn't set. It was not set. And I
Oh,
was,
and while it was being worked on.
it was being worked on. And instead of cooperating, I was told that it had to be an RFP and they sent me the procurement policy. And it's just unfortunate that even a small little request like that is met with resistance from someone who's recused. And, it's unfortunate because it doesn't, it's not consistent with someone who's been recused.
Not a big deal, no.
I mean, I think it's a big deal. I think if you're recused, you should be recused. And if you're
Yeah, I
not
mean,
recused,
in
then
terms of this thing, I think it provided sufficient information that people knew what we were meeting about.
I just wanted people to know what happened and the resistance I got on a very simple request. So,
I would like to adjourn.
do you want to make a motion?
I would love to. I move we adjourn. Time is 10,
I second,
10:08 maybe.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
I,
It is
Thank you.
unanimous. See you in 2 weeks.
I don't know why people think you're not a nice guy.
I have never heard that from anyone except you. You asked me when I'm gonna turn mean. I'm like, I don't think anyone's ever called me mean,
I didn't say
except
mean.
maybe Paula.